and entitled Bridezilla uninvites me to her destination wedding after she says that I tried to steal the spotlight from her and take away from her wedding celebration. But even though I think this stems from the fact that I beat her in Mario Kart one too many times, I'm convinced that she has it out for me for no good reason, forcing me and my boyfriend into a situation that is honestly completely unfair. Here's what's going on. Okay, so my boyfriend is the best man for his best friend's wedding in a few months, and I was originally invited to this wedding as his +1 as well. The wedding is a destination wedding at an extremely expensive resort. All flights and hotels for both of us have been booked and paid for already. Now, I've met the bride and the groom-to-be a handful of times. I've always been friendly with them, and I was invited to attend their joint bachelor and bachelorette trips as my boyfriend's +1. I attended the weekend trip and had a great time, getting to know everyone that will be at the wedding, and was really looking forward to seeing everyone again at the wedding. I never felt any sort of animosity, and even came out of the weekend thinking everybody had a great time partying with each other. Well, it turns out the bride felt some type of way about me and has now uninvited me from the wedding. I have not had any conversations with the bride or the groom, but my boyfriend received the news from the groom himself. From what I heard of the conversation, it seems like the groom doesn't agree with this fiance and was really uncomfortable to deliver the message, but his hands are tied. My boyfriend has received details on what happened to make the bride feel that way towards me, and we both agree that it's a ridiculous overreaction and it's a huge misunderstanding. To make a long story short, the bride felt as if I didn't make an effort to make her feel special and was trying to take away her spotlight. My boyfriend contacted the other friends who were there that weekend as well, and everyone's agreeing that this is an overreaction and just a misunderstanding. The thing that bothers me the most is that everything that was listed out that I was doing to make her feel that way, everybody else was doing it as well. But yet, it seems like there was a magnifying glass on me, and she has some kind of vendetta against me for some reason. My boyfriend thinks it was a series of unfortunate events that started at a house party a few months ago when I beat her in Mario Kart and everyone was cheering for me. I voiced to my boyfriend that I'm more than willing to have a conversation with the bride just to clear the misunderstanding to try and get her to change her mind. But at the same time, I'm not really sure I want to go to this wedding anymore anyways, as I would hate to be somewhere that I'm clearly not wanted. My reasoning for going would be more so to be there to support my boyfriend and to try and enjoy the vacation with him. With that being said, I shared with my boyfriend that if the decision stays and I'm uninvited, I would be upset if he decided to go without me. Now, I may feel differently if, for starters, it wasn't an expensive destination wedding that takes away valuable vacation days as he doesn't have a lot of them, or secondly, we were in agreement that my actions justified this decision in any way. For me, him attending without me feels like he's agreeing with the decision, and he is choosing to stick by his friend over sticking up for me. So seriously, am I overreacting for wanting my boyfriend to back out? Because right now I honestly just don't know what to do. Okay, before we go any further, the original poster has a bunch of updates they need to share, where they basically explain that they wanted to talk to this bride and apologize, but apparently it's not a good time because the groom has been going to bat for them, and the bride's been crying a lot, so they're trying to let the dust settle. But now it looks like there's some kind of steps going forward, and this is what she had to say. Okay, so with all things considered, I told my boyfriend that while it's valid for him to be upset about the situation, it's not valid for me to dictate whether you should go to this wedding or not. I understand the tough spot you're in, and I don't want to make it more difficult than it already is for you. Whatever the final decision might be, you should still go and support the groom. If the decision stays that they just don't want me at the wedding, maybe we can still go to the resort together and I'll just enjoy some solo spa time while you're off doing wedding stuff. That way we can still have some time together and you can fulfill your best man duties. Now, after saying all of this, he was very much against this idea, saying that this would most definitely cause a lot of drama and alienate me further from the group. Well, I said that he knows his friend group way better than me, and if he feels like this would cause more stress for him, then I'll just bow out. I mentioned that if he doesn't want me staying at the same resort, I could go to a different resort in that area so at least the flights aren't wasted. And even with that, he was still against this idea as well, and said that I should just stay home or go to a different destination completely. I have no reason to think that my boyfriend is being unfaithful as some of the comments in my previous posts have mentioned, but I honestly think this is just something that we won't align on. He wants to make it as drama-free for the bride and groom on their wedding weekend by prioritizing their comfort and needs over mine. Now, I want to be an understanding girlfriend so bad, but man, am I torn between feeling neglected as the girlfriend versus trying to let him go and not die on this hill. So seriously, I need to ask again, am I overreacting here? Because right now, I truly don't know what to do. Okay, there's so much to unpack here, but first and foremost, no, I don't think you're overreacting. Who in their right mind would lose Mario Kart and then let the butterfly effect happen and basically lead us to a point where she's like, I don't want her in my wedding. She's trying to steal the spotlight. She didn't make make me feel special. Get her out of here. It's like, dude, we've already bought tickets. It's not that serious. Because I'm willing to bet that the original poster didn't do anything to take away from any of the parties that this idiot bride was having. Like, what is she talking about? Oh, you took away from my wedding. You didn't make me feel special. You're trying to steal the spotlight. It's like, dude, I'm just trying to be cordial. I don't even know you people. I'm just the girlfriend in this situation. What is going on right now? So hopefully someone's able to talk reason into this idiot bride, because she is literally making you throw away like hundreds, if not thousands of dollars just to be uninvited. Because that is so stupid, especially if it stems from a game of Mario Kart. Because truly, if this really is what it comes from, then this bride is the pettiest person on the entire planet. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Today, I walked out of my mother's birthday dinner after my brother made fun of the fact that I got a divorce and had a job change. And now, as a result, everyone's saying that I ruined my mom's birthday by making the situation all about me, leaving me in a situation where I truly don't know if I overreacted or if I was justified in any way, shape, or form. Here's what's happening. Last night was my mom's birthday, so the whole family got together at a nice Italian restaurant we usually go to. About halfway through, my brother stood up to make a toast, and instead of saying something sweet about my mom, he decided to joke about how I'm the family screw-up who can't keep a job or have a relationship. He then said, "Happy birthday, Mom. You raised 3 great kids. And then there's you, still trying to figure everything out." And when he said this, everybody laughed, and even my mom laughed. Well, when this happened, I just sat there burning up inside. I've been through a really rough year. I had a divorce and I had a job change. And instead of support, they turned it into a punchline. I told my brother to shut up, and my dad immediately jumped in saying, "Don't ruin your mother's night." So I just grabbed my stuff and I left. Later on, I got a barrage of text messages in a group chat saying that I embarrassed the family and I somehow made it all about me. Well, I'm now sitting here wondering if I did overreact or if I was completely justified in walking out. Now, I really can take a joke, but with the way my mind has been recently, I just took it seriously. What should I do? This is honestly really upsetting. I don't care who you are. This guy stood up there and said, "Oh wow, you raised a bunch of good kids except for you. You're a screw up. You can't keep a relationship or a job." And mind you, all this is being said at your mom's birthday party. Like, I'm sorry, but any semblance of like us being family at that point would go right out the window, because this is literally insane. You can't just say that to someone and expect them not to react negatively, because at that point, it's not a joke. They're just bullying you and they're treating you like crap for no reason. And like, since when is someone's divorce and job change someone else's business? Like, I know for a fact if I was in your shoes, I probably would never do anything with the family ever again until I got some serious apologies. And I'm talking public apologies, because if you're gonna be doing this in public, then you better be ready to apologize in public as well. None of this behind closed doors, "Oh, we made up and we figured it out." Like, no, that's not gonna fly with me. You're gonna absolutely make a scene about apologizing if you're gonna embarrass me in front of the entire family. So no, you didn't overreact. I would have left as well, and probably said a lot more than just telling my brother to shut up, because what they said to you was incredibly inappropriate and you definitely didn't deserve that. Today, I found out that my friends went to an event at Halloween Horror Nights without me, even though they know for a fact I've been dying to go for a while with somebody. And now, after feeling completely excluded, I've decided that I'm gonna block them on everything and probably cut them out of my life, because right now I don't know what else to do. Here's what's going on. Okay, so I'm a 31-year-old male and I'm feeling really hurt by my group of friends that I thought were closer to me than clearly they're letting on. For a bit of context, I'm a huge fan of Halloween Horror Nights, and it's something I look forward to every year, and I even get a pass so that I can go multiple times. A few days ago, I asked one of my closest friends, let's call him Andrew for the sake of the story, if he wanted to go on Thursday since I saw that he was off of work. Well, he told me no because of money, but I even offered to buy him his ticket and he still said no. He also texted me things like, "I don't want to, and I've been so busy," when I mentioned that he hardly talks to me anymore and actually never wants to spend any more time together. We used to work together, but since I left that job, I have only seen him and these other friends when I went to visit. Well, fast forward, and then the very next night, I find out Andrew and a big group of my other friends all went together. And this is all without saying a word to me or even inviting me. It stings more since I had just asked Andrew if he wanted to go, and he said nothing about the plans, which was with a big group of all people I considered my friends. And they know that I love to go to this, and that I am down to go all the time. I was even going that same night. I have some of their locations, and I saw that they were there too, and I think I passed by them at one point, and at some point during the night, they all turned their locations off. Now, this isn't the first time I've been excluded, so it feels like a pattern of some kind. After I found out and messaged Andrew that it was wild that he turned me down and then just went anyways, he never responded at all. At this point, it feels like they're sending me a message that I'm not really part of the group anymore. I ended up blocking them last night because I don't want to keep watching myself get left out. It's just really awful to think that these are the only friends I've made since I moved here 3 years ago, and I continue to get treated this way. What should I do? Okay, first of all, you did the right thing by blocking these people. Holy crap, they are terrible friends. This guy literally said, "Oh, I'm too busy, I don't want to go." But what he was really saying is, "Oh, I don't want to go with you." He clearly doesn't see you as a friend, and he probably is some kind of like jerk behind the scenes to you. And that, in my opinion, is so uncalled for and just so toxic. Like, these people don't care about you. I really hope you realize that, right? Like, you know for a fact that they're just avoiding going anywhere with you because they don't want to be around you. And honestly, just let that be your sign that they are not people you want to spend any time with. They clearly don't see you as a friend, and like, honestly, it might be better just to move forward and move away from these people. Because my God, you can find way better friends than this. You can find friends who want you to be involved in like a part of their group, because the way they're treating you right now is completely unacceptable. An entitled Karen kept coming into the room I was renting from her, and overall was just acting like a complete psychopath. And I'm so glad I was able to move out of there in a timely fashion, because this lady was out of her mind. Here's how it all went down. Okay, so I had my first official encounter with a Karen in the United Kingdom. I rented a room from her as a lodger, and I lasted less than 2 weeks. She went into my room that I was renting out and said she was legally allowed to enter whenever she liked. She was upset I wasn't using her dishwasher and made me wipe off all of the dishes immediately after I washed them. Apparently, she said this is how they did things in the United Kingdom, but she never wiped any of her dishes off ever. When I left my dishes to dry for a bit, she would stuff them in random cupboards still wet because she couldn't stand my clutter. But her whole house was cluttered and she came across as a hoarder. She openly told me that she was a control freak and selfish, and I found out that she'd locked her dog in her bedroom for a whole day, and then he was rushed to the emergency room the next day because he was throwing up. She got upset with me because I wouldn't open the curtains because the sun was in my eyes while I was working on the computer, and at night it kept my room warm. Now, it was because on this basis that she decided, because we couldn't agree on the curtains, she would like me to leave early. Now, it's important to say that I already had an out, but she didn't give me my rent money back despite kicking me out because of the curtains. She also did weird things like put my umbrella on the floor if it was on the table. She would spray her toothpaste all over my stuff in the bathroom, and she was very passive aggressive with her gaslighting and making me think that I did something wrong, and it was honestly just so upsetting. She was a bully, and nothing that she said made any sense. I've never met anyone so troubled and awful, and I feel bad for anyone who rents there again. The world can be a really strange place, and I feel so lucky for getting away from this weird Karen. Dude, I cannot imagine moving into a place and then suddenly having someone act like this. Like, dude, I'm renting this room, you can't just come in here. And while I'm not really sure about the laws in the United Kingdom, just having some common decency and being like, okay, this is your space to do whatever you want. Like, the least she could do is at least be reasonable to her roommate. Why be aggressive and be like, oh, legally I can come in here whenever I want, there's nothing you could do about it. It's like, sure, but guess what? You're being crazy for no reason. And you wanted me to move out just because I didn't want to open the curtains. Like, dude, you're a weirdo. So yeah, this lady was definitely a Karen, and I'm sorry that you had to deal with that. My entitled aunt somehow made my wedding all about her, as she literally overstepped my boundaries more times than I can count in a way that honestly was incredibly exhausting. Here's how it all went down. So my fiance and I had a small wedding with about 25 people, first at the civil registry office, and then a little party in my parents' backyard. We both have a lot of aunts and uncles we couldn't invite because of the limited guest list. So we decided to host a small champagne reception in front of the civil registry office to give the people we couldn't invite a chance to congratulate us. So one of my aunts, let's call her Sarah, took it upon herself to call the civil registry office to find out the time of the official ceremony and attended without being invited. Now, Sarah was specifically only invited to the champagne reception because she is a very toxic person and tends to make everything about herself. She even proudly told me that she called them because, according to her, oh, I just wanted to see you get married, not to congratulate you. Sarah then proceeded to tell absolutely everyone how I'm her favorite niece, even though I'm her only one, and how she basically raised me when my mother went to university while me and my brothers were young. But that's not even close to being true. She babysat us maybe 5 times and always broke my parents' boundaries, like letting us watch TV all day, even though she was specifically told we couldn't have that much screen time. And trust me, the list goes on and on from there. After everything, she even had the nerve to ask me why I wouldn't want her at the ceremony, but I told her, listen, this is the wrong time to be doing this. But in the end, I told her that it was because I had a clear line to who was invited to the whole party and who was only invited to the small reception because I had limited space. Not to mention that all my other aunts and uncles did just as they were told, but apparently rules just don't seem to apply to Sarah. She also wanted to give me her gift, which is an envelope with money, and I told her multiple times that she should hand it to my mom because I literally didn't have a bag, but she refused because my mom didn't greet her. And yes, she didn't, but that's because Sarah keeps spreading lies about my mom, like how she wouldn't accept my fiance into the family because he didn't go to university and wasn't an academic. But that's especially hysterical because for starters, my mom comes from a working class family and didn't get her degree until she was well over 30 years old. Secondly, I personally stopped studying before I got a degree, so I've only got a nursing degree through vocational training. And for reference, where I live, you don't have to go to university to be a nurse. And third, my fiance just finished additional education, which literally gives him a bachelor's degree. So overall, that's on my aunt Sarah, but trust me, she wasn't the only entitled person there. While we hosted our little champagne reception near the civil registry office, a seemingly homeless woman came up to us and asked us for some alcohol. Thankfully, my brother-in-law shut her down because how on earth would she think that was appropriate? But overall, my wedding was kind of a mess, and if I were to blame anyone for this, it would definitely be my aunt Sarah. Yeah, that's really weird. Like, if you say someone shouldn't be at your wedding, then guess what? You probably shouldn't be there. To then show up out of nowhere and be like, oh, I wanted to see you get married. I didn't want to congratulate you. Like, that sounds like it would be incredibly exhausting and so weird to put up with. But I think you handled it well, despite the fact that your aunt truly was trying to make this all about herself. My mom and my older sibling took all of the $10,000 I had in my savings account. And I'm honestly so devastated by this that I seriously just don't know what to do. Here's how it all went down. I'm a 23-year-old male, and I'd been saving my money my entire life, and I'd saved up to $10,000 in my savings account at 18. Now, it was a joint account, and I was totally unaware of the fact that you can take out money without my consent, or me even knowing about it. Well, my mom and my older sibling decided to do just that. They took all of my money out without me even realizing it. I had no idea anyone could do that, and this is me without even getting any kind of notice about it. When I checked my bank account, I was shocked to say the least, and when I confronted them about it, they literally kicked me out. I had no money to pay for college, and I feel like they stole from me. They used it to pay for their groceries, their mortgage, their cars, etc., while I'm out here paying rent and unsure what my future holds against me. We've argued about this often, but my mom says that she had paid for my braces when I was 14, and apparently at the time, I agreed to pay her back the full amount of $4,000. I had paid her $2,500, but decided not to pay the whole amount due to the fact that she and my eldest sibling did this to me. I'm ashamed to even call them family anymore, and I'd become homeless on my 20th birthday because of this, and I was also jobless. Like, I'm lucky to be here. I have always found ways to try and forgive them, but I simply can't. I have a pure heart, and I always try to see the good in people, but this situation has devastated me. They didn't help me when I was homeless. I've been civil with them, not bringing up the situation, but I simply can't stand them anymore because I really just don't know what kind of family does this. So am I overreacting in this situation? Because right now I don't know what to do. Holy crap, your family sucks. Honestly, this is so unbelievably toxic, it's not even funny. Because in my opinion, she has no right to take this $10,000 from you. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would be investigating ways to get it back. And what kind of parent would be like, oh, you're gonna pay me back $4,000 in the future, and then in retaliation takes all of their savings? Like, seriously, what a terrible parent. So no, you're not the jerk for getting pissed off, and honestly, you could do way better than these people. Because from the sounds of it, it seems like they only cared about money. Am I the jerk for resenting my mother-in-law after she convinced my wife to sign away her $1 million inheritance? Here's how it all went down. Okay, so this happened a few years ago. My father-in-law passed away from brain cancer, and he was a very intelligent, successful, and wealthy man, but he was also modest. He happily drove the same Toyota SUV from the late 90s all the way until the day he died. Now, in contrast, my mother-in-law was the opposite, an only child who always wanted extravagant things. For example, when she retired, she bought herself a $100,000 Porsche. At her wedding, she even borrowed a friend's luxury purse and commented to my stepdad, oh, my husband would never let me get something this nice. After my father-in-law's passing, my mother-in-law told my wife and her brother that he left them a large inheritance, and we're talking over $1 million. But supposedly, he left her nothing besides the house. She then asked both her kids to sign over their inheritance so she could have something to live on, according to her. Now, I thought it was suspicious, and I pushed my wife to please consult a lawyer, but instead of listening, she just refused, as she was worried about upsetting her mom. mom? Well, I quietly spoke to a lawyer myself, and I learned that everything was in a trust, meaning that we would need court action to uncover the truth. Despite this, my wife eventually signed her inheritance away behind my back. Later, we found out that my mother-in-law had fired the lawyer my father-in-law appointed to handle the trust, and she did this because he wouldn't change the will, and apparently she paid $60,000 to hire a new one who would change it. In the end, this caused a lot of fights between my wife and I, but eventually we moved on. But regardless, I come to the internet with a question of, well, did I overreact here? Am I in the wrong for being pissed off at my wife for signing over her inheritance? Because right now I'm honestly not sure what to do. Okay, if I was in your shoes, I would be so pissed off at my wife. You mean to tell me she handed over $1 million to her mom who clearly doesn't need it? Like, dude, what is going on right now? This is such garbage. Who in their right mind would trust that woman right off the bat? She was clearly doing something shady behind the scenes. Why would anyone be so stupid as to not, like, I don't know, investigate it first before handing over $1 million? Because I don't know about you, but $1 million would really change my life personally. Like, that could have been a huge thing for her family, but instead she's like, okay, I'll give it over to my mom. She needs something to live on. And it's like, dude, did she not work? Did she really not have anything saved up in her own account? Like, if she can spend money on a $100,000 Porsche, then I'm willing to bet she's got something to live on. So yeah, if I was in your shoes, I'd be very pissed off. I don't think you overreacted at all. Because from the sounds of it, it seems like your wife is incredibly gullible.
My entitled landlord allows my roommate to use my room without my permission. So I got his business shut down and the roommate kicked out. Here's what happened. I am an Indian immigrant in Canada. I stayed in this house with 7 to 8 other fellow Indian women. Right off the bat, I was subjected to the hostility from 4 women. These women were from the ages of 19 to 25, but they acted like teenagers. They wanted everyone in the house to worship them, praise them, and that we should all bend over backwards just for them. And if someone doesn't do things their way, well, get ready to feel their wrath. That's what happened to me and a few other tenants at this house. I noticed that these bratty Karen women deliberately were avoiding a few of the tenants in their conversations, talking badly about them behind their backs, while also criticizing other tenants' chores around the house, while not doing a good job with their own chores themselves. After a snow day, we all took turns shoveling the snow from the front porch and driveway. These entitled women chose the easiest part of the snow to shovel away, leaving the part with the black ice for the rest of us to deal with. Since most of us didn't have a clue about snow shoveling, we did it slowly and intentionally, but with great difficulty. In contrast, these mean women just stood by on the porch and scoffed at us as we would crack at the ice from the driveway. They would make snide remarks saying that they were better than us and that we were lazy. Ever since then, I stopped talking to these people, and whenever I saw them, I intentionally ignored them. All of this happened in the span of a month. During this period, I became close to a group of people in the house. Incidentally, the mean women hated a person from that group, and because of that, I found myself on their hit list. This is something I found out later. They used to call the landlord to complain about other tenants, including myself, almost every day. Some of their complaints were laughable and annoying. For example, I was having breakfast when I got a call from work. In a hurry, I put the plate in the sink and ran to my room to take an urgent call. While I was at the online meeting, I got a text message from the tenant's social media, which included the landlord. It was from one of the mean women. She sent a picture of my plate in the sink to the entire group, stating that some of the tenants were not following the hygiene rules in the house. I texted the group that it was my plate and I didn't have time to wash the plate because I had to take an urgent call from work. I was about to wash the plate after the meeting. She texted back that it's the duty of every tenant to clean up after their meals. No excuses. So I sent back pictures of the table and dining room, as well as the stove, which had specks of dirt and all kinds of grime all over it. And guess what? These pictures had timestamps on it. I texted that the table's been like that for days and everybody knew in the house who made the mess on the stove. And that was one of the mean women. I ended up having to be the one to clean up the table after 3 days of waiting. This mean woman had no problem with it, except when someone left a plate in the sink for no less than an hour. Later, when the landlord came to the house, they made a complaint against me that I was leaving dishes in the sink apparently all the time. Their immature tactics wore down almost everyone in the house, and eventually nobody spoke to them. Somehow they blamed a couple of my friends and me for all of this, which is just ridiculous. They tried to pick a fight with me, but each time I didn't give them a chance by shutting my door in their face. When that happened, they'd storm into my friend's room and scream at them instead. One fight was a few days ago before my party, and I was going to hold it in my study room. I thought of inviting them just to end the animosity between us, but they crossed a line, and I decided not to invite them. I think this triggered them more because I heard one of the mean women screaming that she hated me, as well as a few other tenants during an argument with another tenant, but I didn't care. I also saw a used mask placed perfectly over my kettle in the kitchen. I knew it was one of the mean women because as soon as I entered the kitchen, they hurried into their rooms from the living room, giggling like idiots. I didn't confront them because I didn't have a piece of solid evidence. I just kind of let it go. The last straw was when I left Canada for my wedding in India. I left the room under the care of my friend, who was staying next door because my room didn't have a key to lock. The day after I reached India, I got a call from my friend. She told me one of the mean women is using my room. When confronted, the mean woman said she had permission from the landlord. I knew the landlord had a bit of favoritism towards the mean women, so I took to the social media group stating that no one can enter my room without my consent, even if the landlord allows them to do it. The landlord replied that his word is final, and if I have a problem, I can leave the house. I was so shocked and completely enraged. I was about to tear up. I replied that I am vacating my room by the end of the month, and this was the start of a beautiful chain reaction. As soon as I revealed I was leaving, the mean women cheered. My friends called me to console me and offer their support. Knowing the bias of the landlord, the tenants minus the mean women decided to look into other accommodations. Some of the tenants sent screenshots of the conversation between the landlord and myself in a group chat to their families in India. Parents, siblings, and spouses of the tenants called and texted the landlord to let him know their disappointment and their doubts about the safety of their loved ones in the house, especially now that the landlord said he has the authority to let anyone stay in the house without the permission of the tenants. The landlord is also Indian and personally knew some of these families. All the while, the mean women were gloating in front of my friends. I was still in India during that time. I told my friends to pack my things. They found another accommodation and said that they will take my things to the house with them before I go back to Canada. The landlord knew that this would affect his business now that the news was slowly spreading around the area. He also got wind of the information that more than half of the tenants were moving out the next month due to this issue. So a few days after the incident, he came to the house to announce the closure of his business and that the remaining tenants have a month to clear out of the house. He wanted to shift his business to another part of the province. This news didn't bother the tenants who already decided to move out, but it was certainly a shock to the mean women. They couldn't get another cheaper accommodation with a family landlord like this one in one of the most expensive cities in Canada. I would have given anything to see their shocked faces when the landlord kicked them out, a reward to their entitlement. My friends joked I became the legend who single-handedly shut down a man's business and forced a few women to move out of their accommodation within the first couple months in Canada. I was sad and angry, but I am glad it happened that way. And now, I don't have to go through these women's garbage comments and snide remarks ever again. What a beautiful story of karma, redemption, and absolute vengeance. This lady is my hero. She didn't take any of the garbage these women were throwing her way. She stuck it right back at him and eventually got this guy's business shut down entirely, which is good too because this guy was such a jerk. These mean women were just treating her like garbage. It's already hard enough you have to go to a foreign country, probably just to work, and you're away from your family in your home country, and then you have roommates who just treat you so badly. I feel so bad for this lady, but you know what? It worked out in the end. And she didn't go about this alone. She had friends to back her up and help her make this move. This was such a satisfying story, and I'm so happy that she came out on top and that she was able to get away from her abusive landlord and her toxic former roommates. Good for her. My maid of honor and best man ruined my wedding. This happened nearly 30 years ago, but is just another instance of these supposed friends of ours always having things their way. I'm still a bit salty about when I look at our wedding photos, which I did over the weekend. We got married in the middle of summer in an outdoor wedding setting. We got married on the dock of a beautiful lake at sunset, knowing it was going to be hotter than hell still. When shopping for dresses with my maid of honor and 2 bridesmaids, we opted for dresses that were very lightweight cotton, very similar to a t-shirt dress with a flare skirt. Mine was white with pink flowers, my maid of honor was blue with pink flowers, and the bridesmaids were pink with blue flowers. I paid for them along with jewelry and hair accessories, as well as our matching bouquets. I only asked for them to pay for the white sandals, which they got for cheap at a discount store. I also requested that their hair was up and that they had light makeup on. For my husband and his best man and groomsmen, again, knowing how hot it would be, my husband wore a plain white t-shirt, they wore pale blue ones, cargo jean shorts, and white canvas sneakers. We paid for the shirts and shoes. They all had the shorts already, and as long long as they weren't stained or had holes in them, I didn't really care. By the way, the maid of honor and the best man were married, as were our bridesmaids and groomsmen. The maid of honor and the best man were the couple that introduced us. One bridesmaid was my best friend, her husband being a groomsman. The other groomsman was my husband's best friend, besides his best man, and his wife was also one of the bridesmaids. So all of our friends were playing a part in this wedding. The maid of honor did say that she didn't think our choice of clothing was really wedding appropriate, but everyone else was really happy with it. We had been together for over 10 years, we had 3 children, and we just decided to make it legal finally and throw a party. We were to meet an hour before the wedding for some pictures. My maid of honor and best man were 30 minutes late. My jaw hit the floor when they got out of their car. I saw the best man first. He's wearing a dress shirt and a tie with khakis. The maid of honor gets out of her car and she's wearing what I can only describe as a dress my grandma would wear for Easter Sunday to church. Her hair is curled and sprayed to the heavens, still rocking the 80s hair in the early 90s. Heavy makeup that looked like it was going to slide off her face already. At that moment, I didn't want them a part of my bridal party. Everyone else convinced me it was okay. They stood out like sore thumbs, not only with the wedding party, but with the guests as well. I didn't speak to them for a year, but our mutual friend convinced me to start talking to them again. There had been several incidents that caused me to cut contact for 6 months to a year with these people. They finally pushed me too far, or rather she did, about 5 years ago, and I cut them off for good. They realized I was serious about 4 years ago when they showed up at our house and I called the police to have them removed. My husband still hangs around occasionally with the best man, but overall, those people are out of my life. Good job for cutting those people out. I can honestly say that if someone did that at my wedding, I would go bananas. There's no way I would let that slide. I tell them to get lost and go home. I wouldn't want them there. That wedding can absolutely go on without a maid of honor and without a best man, easily. I'm personally very shocked that the bride and groom even decided to allow them to come to their wedding dressed in such a way. Like, sure, there's a dress code and it might be a little bit weird, but at the end of the day, that's the bride and groom's dress code. That's how they wanted you to look. So when you roll up trying to outclass them and make yourself stand out at a wedding that is not about you, that is bad form. That is honestly absolutely unacceptable. The original poster goes on to say that they wish they had cut them out sooner because it would have solved a lot of problems for them later on with drama and a lot of headaches. And from the sounds of it, I totally agree. If they're willing to upstage you and outclass you at your wedding just to look better than the way you're dressing at a super casual wedding, then it seems like there's no limits to what they would or wouldn't do. So honestly, good call in getting rid of them, and hopefully things got better for you with your actual friends. My wife just told me that she had a brief affair 4 years ago. My wife Kara and I have been married for almost 8 years. A couple of years into our marriage, we decided we wanted kids and started trying for that. After not conceiving for over a year, we had ourselves checked out and I found out that I am sterile. This came as a massive blow because we've always wanted children. It was a dark time for me. I was very miserable and threw myself at my work. I drank a lot and wasn't at home very much. I wasn't a good husband or a partner to Kara. This went on for about 6 months. Kara tried to help for months, but after some time, she just stopped. I eventually managed to get out of that slump. Kara and I spent a lot of time working on our relationship after that, and I thought we came out stronger. We had a lot of discussions and decided to adopt children. We adopted 2 kids. I thought we had a good marriage. Recently, one of Kara's closest friends died in an accident. Kara has been acting very strangely since then, but I chalked it up to grief and have tried to help her. Yesterday, we sent our kids to my parents for the weekend. After dinner, Kara told me about her affair. She said that when I was in my miserable phase, she was miserable too. She was devastated that we couldn't have children and started talking to a female coworker about it because I wasn't available. As I started withdrawing, Kara started relying on her more and more. A few weeks in, Kara started spending more time with her. Then one weekend came around where they both had one too many, and they spent some personal time together, if you know what I mean. This went on for 2 months until Kara decided to break it off. Kara had proof that the affair only lasted under 3 months. She saved all of the messages from when it started all the way up until when it ended. Kara showed them to me, and her coworker begged her to leave me in those messages. Kara stopped contact with that coworker and even left that job at that time to break it off completely. Kara told me that she rethought her life when her close friend had passed away and didn't want to hide it from me anymore. I'm feeling completely devastated right now. She lied to me for 4 years. We adopted children together. I haven't been able to function all day. I told her that I needed to think and that I didn't want to talk to her. I've been in the guest bedroom all day and I can't think straight. What should I do now? This is a really rough one because the wife hid another relationship behind this guy's back and is only now explaining this to him 4 years later. All of this while raising 2 kids that they adopted together. That's a serious lifetime commitment. I will say the positive side of this is that clearly the wife is loyal to her husband, but this is at the expense of lying to her husband. But I can't imagine how devastated this guy feels knowing that his wife cheated on him. I mean, sure, he was unavailable and he was very depressed because he couldn't have kids, but that is no reason to try and go around and sleep with somebody else. I think a really big silver lining that he can hopefully hold on to is the fact that his wife chose him. She decided to stick with him and to do everything she could to salvage her relationship. And I'm really happy that her friend passing away was the motivation she needed to fess up and to confess what she did. But it definitely doesn't take away the hurt that this man's probably feeling. But at the end of the day, he needs to make a very serious decision about whether he wants to stay with his wife or not, which is kind of what he's insinuating at the moment. But what would you do if you were in this situation? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear it. My ex-boyfriend from over 15 years ago messaged me and wants to meet up again, and I don't know what to do about it. I have been on dating apps for a while now. I'm a 35-year-old female and have had a few long-term relationships. I've been single for a year and a half, which is the longest since I was 15 years old. Last week, my ex liked me on a dating app. We were together when I was 18 and he was 24. He was my first proper boyfriend and we were together for 2 years. I was head over heels in love with him at the time. You know, the usual first love stuff. The age difference was the biggest issue at the time. We were both in different places in our life. There were some trust issues on his side at the time, but apparently he has worked through them over the years and they're not an issue now. I was a very naive 18-year-old, sheltered and inexperienced. It was doomed to fail when we were younger. It's now been 15 years. I know I'm not the same person I was back then, so I think it's safe to assume he isn't either. We're both in the same place in our lives, looking for the same thing. He's the only ex I would ever consider going back to. My track record with men hasn't been great, to be honest. I liked him back. About a day later, and within 30 seconds, he had sent me a message. After a few hours of catching up, he suggested we meet up for a drink and catch up properly, and so I agreed. I'm very anxious about it. I know that no matter what happens, we'll probably have a fun night together. We get along great. We always have. I'm just afraid I'm going to fall into something that will be based on whether or not it's familiar to me, and the fact that both of us might be feeling a little lonely. How will I know if it's a good idea to revisit the idea of a relationship with my ex? He is a really good guy, and he has his life together. I have so many feelings resurfacing. I'm afraid this is clouding my ability to know if this is a good idea. I've spoken to my family and people I trust about it, and the main response has been, well, he's a good guy. What's the harm in catching up with him and seeing where it goes? And to be honest, that says something. They would never say that about any of the other relationships I've been in. I guess I'm just trying to figure out if I'm overthinking this. Is it a bad idea to meet him? In reality, I'm really excited to see him again. After my experiences in the last 15 years, the cautious side of me is trying to manage expectations. What should I do? The first thing to remember is that it's been 15 years. You have both literally grown up. In my opinion, it's not fair to judge someone based off of who they were when they were a teenager or early 20s. A lot of maturing can happen even in just a year. And you said it yourself, this guy has his life together. Maybe when you were younger, the timing just wasn't right. And the timing very well could be right here. You don't know unless you try. I honestly don't see very many issues here. You're both very different people now. I say just go for it and see what happens. Just go into it thinking that you're going to be catching up with a friend you knew a long time ago. Hopefully that will help shake off the jitters, and you can just go about this as if you're trying to catch up with a friend. But honestly, I think it's going to go just fine and you got nothing to worry about. An entitled couple gets mad at my coworker for not being able to speak their language. This happened a while ago. One afternoon, 2 tall, stern-looking blonde people wearing matching blue tracksuits came up to the deli sandwich counter and started speaking a European language to my coworker, pointing at the turbo oven and holding up a container of cold chicken wings to her. They attempted to give my coworker the container, but she declined. She tried to explain to them that we do not heat up prepackaged chicken wings, and the couple were getting visibly upset. They became louder and got really frustrated with her. She tried to offer to use Google Translate to try and translate what they were saying, but they declined. And just for some background, we live in Hawaii. As far as knowing foreign languages, European languages aren't really known that well here. It is on the opposite end of the world, after all. I wasn't close enough to hear them fully, so I didn't know which language they were speaking. My coworker started to try using hand gestures, and these 2 people were really getting angry, talking to her in their language, getting much louder and much angrier. At this point, they're obviously berating her in their language, but she can't understand at all what they're saying. I think to myself, oh no, when I see their body language and the way they're moving their hands. I was helping a customer for a bit a ways down, looking over at the odd debacle that's happening near the sandwich bar car with my coworker. After about 5 minutes of yelling and gesturing wildly, they gave up, turned around, and stormed off. My coworker tells me about the encounter, and after I finish helping my customer, I see them looking around the store, blue tracksuits and stern faces and all. To me, the interaction was pretty funny because they were doing the exact same thing I know some American tourists would do if they were abroad. If you do go abroad, it helps to learn a few words of the local language so you can kind of communicate. If you're Japanese coming to Hawaii and you stay in the tourist areas, you most likely won't have an issue, but most non-Asian languages, other than English, are virtually obsolete in Hawaii, so it would likely help for their own sake to know a few words of English, or at the very least, use some kind of translation app in a part of the world where they don't understand your language. I want to laugh at this situation, but I know of people who act like this when they go to foreign countries and they themselves are American and they speak English. They act as if the person they're talking to is not intelligent, as if they don't know what they're doing, and that the fact that they don't speak their language is somehow a reflection of how smart they are, which is just absolutely ridiculous. That's not the case. It's literally just a difference of language. But on that same thought, the way they were acting as being described in this story is completely inappropriate. In my opinion, if you're going to another country that has a foreign language that you don't know, that you don't speak, you better be on your best behavior. Be kind, be nice, be patient, all the things you learned in grade school. Because those people you're screaming at because they don't understand your language and vice versa, they are not dumb, and they will be making fun of you when you eventually leave that place in a huff. Just like those two blue tracksuit wearing weirdos. Because otherwise, you're just gonna have a bad time. My entitled colleague tried to get me to cancel my holiday because I didn't have any kids. Many years ago, when I was in my early 20s, I used to work in a supermarket. Normally, I got along with all my colleagues and was always happy to do them favors, like swapping shifts, provided I was not doing anything else. However, one colleague had a habit of seeing last-minute holiday deals and then booking them before she checked if she could have the time off. Then, if management told her too many people were off, she tried to bully other staff into canceling their holiday. Sadly, many buckled and gave in to her. This time around, myself and a manager had a week off in the same week as this entitled coworker of mine. She knew she couldn't bully the manager, so while I was on break, she came up to me. My colleague said, "Oh, hey there, you're on holiday in a few weeks, right?" I nodded, knowing exactly where this was going. She went on to say, "Oh, well, I just booked this beautiful holiday, beautiful resort, great bargain. The kids are so excited. The trouble is, management said they can't give me the time off because, well, you're off. Would you cancel your holiday?" I looked her straight in the eye and I said, "No." "No? What do you mean no? You're not going anywhere. You never go anywhere. What difference does it make if you take your holiday time another week?" I try to tell her that I have plans, but she ends up interrupting me, saying, "Yeah, probably sleeping. That's not plans. You are so selfish after all the favors I have done for you." After she said that, I said, "You've never done me any favors. I have swapped many shifts for you over the years, including New Year's because you said you wanted to spend time with your kids, but every time I asked to swap with you, you always refuse." "Well, you don't have any kids. It doesn't matter when you take holiday. My kids are so excited about this holiday. You're going to upset them, and I've already paid my deposit. I'll lose it if I cancel now." I tell her, "Well, maybe you should have checked you could have the time off before you booked the holiday." She starts screaming at me and starts saying these terrible cuss words, saying stuff like, "What are you doing that's so important that you won't give up your holiday time?" And after I explain to her that I'm going to my cousin's wedding, she simply doesn't have it, claiming that I shouldn't have to go for an entire week, saying it's absolute garbage that I'm taking this time off. So I go on to explain that I'm actually spending most of the week catching up with family up there. Mind you, these are people I have not seen in years. She goes on to say, "Well, it's just a cousin. They're not that important. And if you haven't seen them in years, that's your fault. You could see them anytime. I need that holiday week more than you." She continued to moan and groan, calling me selfish, demanding that I cancel my holiday. She tried to guilt trip me into submission by reminding me her kids were so excited and how upset they would be if they couldn't go, and how I was going to make them cry and how they hadn't had a holiday like this in years, which is just an utter lie. Having had enough of her, I got up and walked away, because if I didn't, I was going to lose my temper. Right after that, I put in a complaint with HR and to the duty manager. The manager had a word with this lady and told her that no, you can't make people cancel their holiday. She claimed she had just asked me nicely and I took it the wrong way, and the complaint went no further, though my coworker did indeed stop bugging me. Fast forward several weeks. I returned to work after my holiday and found no trace of my colleague. Usually, as soon as anyone who refused to cancel their holiday for this lady had finally gotten back from their own holiday, this lady would waste no time in trying to make them feel bad. But that's when I learned that my colleague had been fired. It turns out that she had called in sick the week I was on holiday. The managers got suspicious as this was the exact week that she wanted off. They did some digging where they saw pictures on her Facebook account that proved she went ahead and went on holiday. And so because of that, she was immediately fired. What is wrong with this colleague? Who just goes up to another coworker and starts harassing them simply because they're taking the same week off that you are? Like, that's just crazy. I've had irrational coworkers, but I've never had anybody act like this. Usually what happens is the coworker says, hey, I kind of want to take that week as well. Is there any way we can come to a compromise? And then the reasonable adults in both of them come forward and be like, yeah, let's do that. So they work out some kind of deal so there can still be coverage during the week and both parties can be happy with the time they're getting off. It is just so disrespectful that this lady tried to guilt trip her coworker into canceling their plans simply because they didn't put the time in that they should have. I mean, it's not the original poster's fault that they didn't put the time in with HR. That's their fault. And who just buys a ticket and says, hey, I'm going to go on holiday to this beautiful resort with my kids and puts a deposit down without the guarantee that they're going to be able to get this time off? I just don't understand that logic. But thankfully, the stars aligned and that lady got taken out of that job. She tried the classic play of calling in sick and then not covering her tracks because HR found out and they immediately got rid of her. But there is a plus side to this story. At least that colleague never has to worry about putting in time to take a holiday. Now she can do it whenever she wants. I have recently doubled my income and now my boyfriend wants to quit his job and I don't know what to do. I recently came into some money that basically has me set for life. I am by no means wealthy, but if I wanted to quit my job, I could live comfortably. I work full-time and have no plans of quitting though. My boyfriend works for a company that is mismanaged horribly, but otherwise he has a good boss, is paid well, and has a flexible schedule, which is nice for us because we like to travel often. He wants to quit his job, but has no backup plan. I've told him I have no problem supporting him if he goes to school or if he picks up a part-time job until he finds something that he wants to do. Every day he gets up for work, he tells me how much he just wants to call out or to just stop showing up altogether. He used to like his job, but ever since the money came into play, he has been harping on not wanting to work anymore. He has been unemployed twice during our relationship of 5 years, and each time I was supportive and helped him financially. When we first started dating, he quit his job and didn't tell me for 3 days. I know what it's like to work a job you hate. I myself have quit 2 jobs since we've been together, but I had new work lined up each time, so I never went on unemployment. I want to be supportive, and I want him to be happy in what he does, but I am afraid if I support him with no plan of going back to work or even going back to school, that he never will do either. What do I do? It's really cool that the lady in this story has money that can support her for the rest of her life, but in that same sentence, it's really cool that she still wants to work. I mean, imagine if you just said, hey, I'm going to retire at the age of 30. That's a long life without any work to do. So I completely understand and agree with the lady in this story where she wants to work and she wants her boyfriend to work. And I have also been there where I had to work a job that I absolutely despised every waking moment of my life. It was absolute torture and I did not like it. But you know what I did? I found something else and then I quit. But just quitting without any kind of backup plan or any kind of prospect to try and support yourself in the interim is really dangerous. Also, in my opinion, it's a lot more attractive to future employers if you get a job while you have a job. It at least shows some semblance of longevity and a willingness to work. Having to explain away absences in your employment is a gut-wrenching feeling. And personally, it's not something that's very fun. I've had to do it and it really sucks. So this guy's going about it all wrong. And who's to say his girlfriend's gonna want to stick with someone who doesn't have any goals or aspirations in life? In my opinion, what this guy is actually saying is, hey, baby, can you just support me while I do nothing? This guy is unintentionally showing his hand that he just wants to be a freeloader in this relationship. And I can tell you right now, she's not going to want to stick around with that guy if this is how he's going to act. I mean, if I was in her shoes, I wouldn't want that. I would personally want my significant other to be motivated and have aspirations that they want to shoot for. And because I would have that kind of money to support both of us, we could make it happen. But to just outright say, hey, I'm going to quit my job without a backup plan or any kind of side job setup is really dangerous and personally not something that I would want in a relationship. So hopefully they can figure this out and find some kind of common ground where he can probably switch jobs and do something that he actually enjoys instead of just quitting and then suddenly having no job, no goals, and nothing to look forward to. He can do better than that, and I think she can help him see that. My ex from a long-term relationship wants to meet up and talk, and I'm afraid to tell my current boyfriend. I was in a 4-year relationship that ended in 2020, but we stayed friends until last year. Although I wanted to be single for a while, I ended up dating someone from the past very quickly. At the end of the last relationship, relationship, my feelings got very confused, and my actions became messy. These two men could be considered near opposite types of people. I don't know why or how my heart works like that, but there is some deep chemistry on both ends. About 6 months have gone by since my ex and I have talked. He blocked me because he was upset that we couldn't work it out and I was with someone new. In the time that has gone by, I believe we have all worked on healing and moving forward. I expressed to my therapist that I miss my ex as a best friend. He was a very important person in my life. My new boyfriend is pretty jealous and kind of controlling. During the in-between of these relationships, I have gone through some traumatic events with close members of my family and leaned heavily on whoever was there to care for me, which was and is my ex and current partner. These were some dark days and just flat out painful for everyone involved. I'm still going to therapy and trying to get back on my feet. Anyway, my ex and I haven't spoke since last September. Today he reached out and asked if we could meet and talk. I really have no idea what he's looking for, but I know that I truly miss this person in my life. It often eats me up inside. My current partner would probably go crazy if he knew that I even texted my ex back. He's very codependent on me, but he's trying to work on himself too by going to therapy. This year, I've worked very hard at being honest with myself and others about what I'm doing in my life. I'm scared to even think about lying, and I'm scared to tell the truth about going to meet with my ex, but I do want to meet. I feel it's very important. There are absolutely no other intentions except to just talk. I just need some input. My anxiety levels and fear are through the roof. What do I do? I think this person needs to realize that if the roles were reversed and her boyfriend was going behind her back talking to his ex, that she would probably be pretty upset. So I think it's pretty understandable that the boyfriend would obviously be pretty upset that you're talking to your ex still. Honestly, lying will always be the worst option. You can fight now about the insecurities he might have, or fight later when he finds out you went behind his back. Like, both options are really hard, but it's better to tell the truth. But to not tell the truth and then to just meet up with your ex is almost guaranteed to be a recipe for disaster. Like, why would you put yourself in that kind of situation? I would almost say that if you meet up with your ex, to be completely honest with you, you can basically consider your current relationship over. It is not fair for your current partner to have to go through this without you telling them. In my book, that is absolutely not okay. You can't have both, unfortunately, in this situation. And it seems like you still have feelings for your ex. So in all honesty, I think you really need to consider whether or not you even want to be with your current boyfriend. Because from the sounds of it, it looks like you kind of want to go with your ex. And it would be better for you to make that decision now than to go behind your current boyfriend's back and ruin your relationship anyways. My future sister-in-law wants to have her wedding in the same week and at the same wedding location as mine, and I don't know what to do about it. My fiance and I have only been engaged for about 6 weeks and didn't want to wait too long, so we will be getting married in less than 3 months. We are only inviting about 50 people, but decided to make our wedding as memorable as possible, so we rented a villa on the mountainside for 10 days. The wedding will span over multiple days, with a combination of ceremonies from both my fiance's culture as well as my own. The villa is near some scenic areas, some hot springs, waterfalls, stuff like that. So we have created an itinerary that involved all the invited guests and us visiting these places. We have already paid for a couple of the attractions, like bungee jumping, for some of the guests to participate in. Everything from the clothing for the bridal party to the trips nearby, my fiance and I will fully cover the cost. We both earn well, so this is something we wish to do, as it would allow our families and friends to enjoy themselves without worrying about money. Well, my fiance's older sister, we'll call her Sarah, and her fiance have not been able to come up with a decent wedding plan themselves. They have been engaged for a couple of years, but do not earn as well as my fiance and I, so they can't afford an entire wedding. Sarah talked to us and asked if she could hold her wedding at the villa we rented on some of the days that we wouldn't be having our ceremonies. Most of the guests she wants at her wedding are already invited, so it wouldn't be much of a hassle, and the villa is going to be decorated for our wedding ceremonies anyway, so it might as well be used for hers. She additionally suggested that the bridal party's clothing could also be used for her ceremonies. In all this, she is willing to pay 40% of whatever the wedding was going to cost us. Up to this point, I was firmly against it, as those days were set aside for our guests to go out and enjoy themselves instead of being cooped up in a villa. However, she brought up the fact that if she chose a latter day for her wedding, people will question why her younger brother got married before her, as this is considered shameful in my fiance's culture. People might talk of my sister-in-law negatively and make rumors like her fiance isn't serious about marrying her. We told her to give us some time to think and have talked amongst ourselves since then. My fiance has left the decision entirely up to me and promised to stand by me regardless of what I choose. He said while he does love love his sister and wants to help her. This is something he wanted for a long time, so even if he is willing to make the sacrifice, he will not ask that of me. Whatever the decision may be, we will present it as a collective decision rather than placing the entire weight on me. But with that in mind, I don't know what I should do now. Should I let my sister-in-law have her way or go about my wedding as previously planned at the expense of upsetting her and possibly my fiance's parents? What should I do? I can see both sides of this coin. I can understand that this individual wants to be involved on this day that's already being rented out because it'll probably be a lot cheaper for them. But the original poster needs to remember that this other couple have been engaged for several years. So this excuse of them saying, oh, well, I don't want the family to think we're not serious, is just absolute garbage. It's been years since they've been engaged. They're not serious. And in my opinion, it only seems like they want to jump on board with this wedding after they've seen how much work has gone into it and how incredible and how fantastic it's going to look. These people know for a fact they won't be able to pull that off with the money they make. And so they're only latching onto this because you had a fantastic idea going into it. Do you really want to share that with somebody else? Personally, and maybe I'm just selfish, I would not want to share this moment with anyone else. I would want this to be exclusively me and my spouse's day. In this case, 10 days. I would not be a fan of having anybody else coming in and trying to take away from my special memory. This is not a group marriage. This is my marriage. It's incredibly selfish, in my opinion, for this individual to kind of step in and say, hey, can we get married on that day too? Maybe I'm mean for saying that, and please let me know in the comments, but personally, I would not let this happen. This is the biggest day of your life. This is absolutely 100% about you and your spouse. No one else is involved, in my opinion. But what would you do if you were in this situation and someone wanted to get married in the same week that you're getting married? What would you do about it? Leave a comment down below. Let us know. I broke up with my longtime girlfriend after she kissed multiple girls at her 21st birthday party. For reference, this happened last Saturday. I saw her kiss 3 of her friends at her birthday party at separate times, which led me to just walk out. I was a little bit under the influence, so I just laid down in the front yard until I was sober enough to drive home. The next day, I broke up with her. There was no sign anywhere in our 4 years where she ever gave me the impression she would do something like that. I understand some people are comfortable with that kind of behavior, but I am not one of them. I wouldn't call it cheating in the traditional sense, but I feel so betrayed. I thought her kisses on the lips were a special thing only meant for me, but boy was I wrong. I really thought I was going to marry this girl. This was both of our first relationships, and she meant the world to me. She has always saved her intimacy for me, which made me feel so special and loved. I understand young relationships rarely work out, but I genuinely thought we could. Just in case anyone thinks it was only a drunken mistake, when I talked to her about it the next day, she said she didn't do anything wrong. She said she has no regrets. It was intentional. I probably would have forgiven her if she said it was an accident and apologized sincerely. Instead, she said she wanted to have fun. Evidently, that meant kissing other people. I personally believe she checked out mentally from our relationship a couple of months ago and started acting out so I would end it and she wouldn't have to. The problem is, even if she quit on us mentally, I never stopped loving her. In the span of one day, I went from cuddling with her, watching Netflix, to then us ending our relationship. I still feel in shock. I can't look anywhere without being reminded of her. Since the middle of high school, she's been there for every great moment in my life. I don't know how to let go of her. I don't know how to get past this. We did everything together. I can't play video games, open Instagram. I can't even open my closet without being reminded of her. It's tearing me apart inside. I feel genuinely broken. I guess I just want someone to empathize with me. I'm sure someone here can offer me a better perspective because I'm at a loss. Maybe I just need someone older than me to say everything will turn out fine. What should I do? I think it's really important to remember that you're only 21 years old. I know 21 years old might seem old to people who are much younger, but I'm telling you, as someone who has been 21 years old and is now much older than that, it is not that old. You have literally so much life left to live. And this person got it right. Young relationships rarely work out. Some of them do, don't get me wrong. But if your girlfriend's acting like this and she's not sorry for basically cheating on you, and yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say it, her intentionally kissing other people is absolutely her cheating on you. That's my opinion at least. And if she's gonna be super unapologetic about all of this and treat this as if it's a casual thing, then honestly, my man, you could do much better than this. You do not need her in your life. And I am 100% with you. You went through high school with this person, so you have some sentimental connection with them. But here's a little wake-up call for you. You are not going to keep in contact with every single person you went through high school with. Even your most diehard best friend, eventually, possibly, you might drift apart. That's pretty normal and it happens. So I think, honestly, in my own opinion, the best thing to remember is that you have literally your whole life in front of you. There's so many more people out there who will love and appreciate you exclusively without the excuse that they wanted to just have fun and that they intentionally want to kiss other people to try and get excited. That is just completely uncalled for and is not conducive to a healthy relationship. So keep your head up, keep moving forward, and trust me, things will get better. My husband doesn't seem to want me anymore, but he also doesn't want to separate. What should I do? My husband and I are both 30 years old, and we have been together for 8 years. We've been married for about 4 years, and we have a 2-year-old. We used to have an amazing marriage, but in the last year or so, my husband just doesn't seem very into me anymore. I'm personally in good shape and back to my pre-pregnancy weight. I take great care of myself and our house, and I try hard to connect with him, but something just seems to be missing. After months and months of trying to improve our marriage, I have kind of started to give up. The last straw was a few weeks ago when I tried to initiate intimacy with him and he turned me down. I felt so humiliated and rejected because of how he went about it. He claimed it was because I looked physically uncomfortable and that it was distracting with how I was looking at him. I felt hideous and unwanted, and so I started putting even more care into my appearance and mental health. So we kind of just coexist without any emotional or physical intimacy. I'm now at a point where I feel very attractive and confident, but the problem is I have lost all interest in my husband. It's more like my interest is buried under hurt feelings and rejection. I don't even want to talk to him, let alone be close. Not to mention I started noticing our neighbor. This guy is our age, drives a freaking Lamborghini, and is very attractive and seems to have been noticing me as well. My husband is aware of all of it and is mad at me and blames me for being weak-minded. And the other day he screamed at me, basically implying that I should just go over there and get with the neighbor. All because he thought I was lingering about outside so I would just run into the neighbor. I've brought up divorce many times to give my husband an easy out because I feel like maybe he's not interested in me, but is afraid to initiate separation. But he gets mad and says if I were to leave, he'd probably unalive himself. Yet he continues to not show any affection or desire for me. I feel it's unfair to me to continue to work on things, and I'm starting to develop a serious crush on Mr. Sports Car Guy next door. What do I do? I've brought up marriage counseling as well, and he's just not into it. I feel like I'm at a point where if the opportunity struck, I would probably get with the neighbor, and that makes me feel bad. But I also kind of understand because I tried for a whole year while raising a baby practically alone. I don't want to cheat on my husband, but I also don't want to suffer anymore. What should I do? Let's circle back to something that he just said. He threatened to unalive himself if you divorced him, and yet still doesn't want to put any kind of work into the marriage. That's a big red flag to me. That's just blatant abuse in my opinion. I'm not saying you should get divorced, but I think you really need to consider your options because this guy does not sound like he's putting any work into this marriage, and it seems like he's kind of given up. And I don't think you've given up. Just from what you've told us, it seems like you've done a lot to try and make things work, especially for the sake of your 2-year-old kid. But either way, it looks like some serious thought's gonna have to go into this, and you really got to consider what you want out of your future for yourself as well as your kid. My entitled, controlling mother is demanding that I break up with my boyfriend, so I am officially cutting her out of my life. So I'm 18 years old and about to finish my first year of college. My mom and I had a talk about 2 weeks ago about how she doesn't approve of my boyfriend just because he doesn't go to college and had some personal issues preventing him from getting his high school diploma. Keep in mind, he is working on getting his GED and is planning to enroll in college after summer. My mother is the type of person to think everything she's doing is right, and if anyone says anything differently, it's disrespecting her. She wanted me to cut off my connection with my dad because they are divorced and doesn't want me to have a relationship with my aunt and uncle because they sided with him apparently. She would refuse any support from my dad, such as getting me a car or simply buying me food. My mom thinks I cannot think for myself and does the thinking for me. Anytime I tell her this is how I feel, she disregards my feelings and how I think. She still treats me like a kid who needs to be watched over 24/7. I get yelled at for not texting back or answering immediately even though I could be busy. She doesn't let me go anywhere without her permission, but it's 90% of the time a no. I have to let her know 2 weeks ahead of time if there's an event or hangout of any kind that's happening. I have to let her know who's coming and she has to talk to their parents. She's a very strong-headed person, so it's impossible to communicate with her. It's hard for me to express my feelings in general because of that. It made me have a hard time communicating in general, but my boyfriend encourages me to express myself and to communicate with him anyways. Over Christmas, my mom got very mad at me for opening a present from my aunt. What set her off the most is that I told her it's my present, so I should decide whether to open it or not. She was furious. She was screaming and yelling and mocking me because I was crying. crying, taking my phone away and looking through my messages. Fast forward to present time. My boyfriend has always been super supportive. He helps me out with school and is far from a distraction whatsoever. We've been together going on 1 year now with zero problems. My mom liked him at first, saying how amazing he was to me and respectful overall, but as the months go by, she suddenly thinks that no, he's not a good fit for me. This past Monday, she called me reiterating everything and then asked me if I'm going to do what she said. This was the first time I've ever told her no in my life. My mom doesn't take kindly to me speaking my mind and telling her how I feel. I always get rejected for how I'm feeling. I'm not allowed to think for myself. She didn't like my answer and she goes on and on about how all these people in our lives don't support my boyfriend and absolutely don't want him with me. At this point, I'm crying on the phone because she's yelling at me and then proceeds to mock me crying, which has happened many times before. She basically said I either can stay in the relationship or she completely cuts me off, including my college tuition loan, which she unknowingly put in my name. After that, I hadn't heard from her in 2 days. She usually texts and calls me multiple times daily, which I don't like, but when she doesn't text me, she's either mad at me or wants some space. So I texted her cousin to ask her opinion on everything. She sent me a sweet message supporting my relationship and basically told me my mom is unhappy with it. The following morning, on a Thursday, I get a super long text from my mom saying, "I'm angry and hurt by your actions. You yelled, screamed, and later in the conversation hung up the phone, all because you insist on dating a boy who is not motivated for higher education. He comes from privilege. You don't. He has no intentions of going to school. He probably won't even get his GED. That is his business. You are my business. My goal is to give you all the tools to get educated. If you don't want to follow my rules, I will let you become the independent adult you want to be. I had no intentions of texting or calling you until next Thursday," which happens to be the end of the semester, mind you. "That's how hurt and angry I am. The only reason I am texting you is because my cousin phoned me last night and said that you reached out to her. By the way, I love you more than I love myself, but I think it's time to love myself now. I will not be disrespected by anyone anymore. If you ever raise your voice or hang up on me again, I promise I will walk away from you." I never did any of those things except hang up on her one time. I speak my mind once and say no, which makes her blow up on me. Honestly, I'm just really afraid of my mom. It's like she's going to explode at any random point. I've developed a lot of anxiety because of her. Like she's this voice in my head everywhere I go. It's been better ever since I've been away at college, but I still deal with him often. I finally have the freedom to do my own thing and be my own person. I'm not excited to be going back to a controlling and manipulative household. I'm planning on cutting her out of my life completely. I'm packing up my bags and sneaking away late at night. Luckily, my boyfriend is helping me with everything and taking me to my dad's. Hopefully, this distance will be a good thing for our relationship. If not, she will probably not let me back into her life or just straight up disown me. The thing is, I'm really scared. A part of myself tells me that I should feel bad and that what I'm doing is wrong, but I'm just not sure. What should I do? I think escaping this situation and going to your dad's house is the absolute right decision. Your mom seems incredibly unhinged. She is gaslighting you, she is treating you terribly, and trust me when I say this, you are going to be so much better off away from her. College can be a wonderful antidote for any kind of weird situation you may have had at home. I've seen that from several friends of mine who have been in sticky situations similar to this, but I can tell you that life away from family members who act like this is going to be so much better for you. I don't know the specific details about how your dad acts or anything along those lines, but hopefully if you feel like you can go to his house and get away from your mom, then it most likely is a better living condition than being around her. She seems crazy. I'm sorry, I'm just going to say it. And sneaking out in the middle of the night honestly might be your only way out of there, because I can honestly see her trying to do everything within her power to keep you in that house. And honestly, you don't need that, and you're going to be so much happier away from that crazy woman. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the link in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for wanting to block an old childhood friend for being way too clingy? This friend I'll call Jim, and we have been best friends since we were about 10 years old. Growing up, we went to the same school, and we would have hung out more, but when we were 15, he moved about 30 miles away, so we didn't hang out a lot, but every moment we could, we did. When I went to college, we lost contact, as he stayed in that town and my college was in a different country. When I got back, we became friends again, but slowly drifted apart as I was dating and wanted to spend more time with my girlfriend than him. Jim seemed very clingy, and everything in my life has to involve him. If it doesn't, he lashes out at me and asks what kind of friend would do that. A couple of months into my relationship, he asked me who his best friend was, him or my girlfriend. Without hesitation, I said my girlfriend, and he got really offended by that and said, how could my girlfriend be my best friend even though I've known him longer? I explained how my girlfriend and I are really close, and he just couldn't wrap his head around it. I tried explaining how dating and being with a girl is more important to me than hanging out with guy friends, but he still didn't fully understand, so we both just let it go. Shortly after that, he became friends with some other friends of mine who also just happened to be dating. I'll call these two Sam and Judy. I've known Sam and Judy just as long, if not longer, than I've known Jim. The five of us would hang out once or twice a week, but as my girlfriend and I wanted to hang out with couples instead of having a third or fifth wheel, we slowly started spending less time with Jim. Sam, Judy, my girlfriend, and I would go on double dates and hang out quite a bit as we were all about the same age. We all had the same interests, and it just kind of clicked. Jim got really jealous because to him, the four of us did everything together and he was left alone. While the four of us did hang out, it was maybe once a month, if that. About a year later, when my girlfriend and I had our oldest child, Jim insisted he be the first non-family person to hold our kid. Instead, it ended up being one of my girlfriend's friends. My girlfriend posted a picture of her friend holding our kid on social media, and Jim came over the next day and threw a massive fit. He was yelling and cussing at me and my girlfriend because we were apparently terrible friends, and overall freaking out because someone else held the kid before he could. I explained to him that it was just a matter of timing. My girlfriend's friend came over a day before Jim was planning on coming over, and that's the only reason why she held the kid before he did. But that just seemed to make him even more upset. He went on to ask why I didn't call him or have him come over that same day. I explained to him that there wasn't really a plan and she just came over out of nowhere. This seemed to only make him even more mad. I then asked him if he wanted to hold our kid, but he just said no and then left. I didn't talk to him for about a month after that. Around that time, Jim came out as gay and said he had strong feelings for Sam. Sam told him he wanted nothing to do with him romantically, as he was in a serious relationship with Judy, and also he's not attracted to men. After that, Jim started stalking them, sending creepy texts to both Sam and Judy, and left letters on Sam's door, all claiming his love for Sam and how he wished Judy was no longer alive so he and Sam could be happy together. Sam and Judy showed me those messages and letters, and I confronted Jim, and he denied all of it and told me that Judy is a snake and that all the messages were made up and the whole situation was a lie that Sam and Judy made just to make him look bad. So at that point, I stopped talking to Jim completely. Also, in recent times, I spent more time with Sam and Judy, and after the whole thing about Jim not holding my baby first, I absolutely took Sam and Judy's side. Sam even installed a security system and got a dog that would bark if a bird was in the yard to make sure Jim wouldn't come by his place ever again. He had his house locked down. After that whole thing, I blocked Jim on social media as well as on my phone, and I didn't hear from him for about 6 months. One day, Jim's sister found me online and asked if I knew how Jim was doing and where he was because apparently he disappeared. I found out that he went to a mental institution to get some help. After he got out, he got my number from a mutual friend online and sent me a text from a new number. He sounded a lot more friendlier and acted more like a friend than a creep. I've kept my distance and only have short conversations via text every once in a while. Last year, I moved and he has no idea where I live, nor do I want to let him know. We have met at a couple public places to hang out. I'm planning on marrying my girlfriend soon, but I don't want him to know about it so he doesn't show up and throw a fit because he wasn't invited. But my honest plan is to move again later this year, to block him on all social media as well as my phone. But what else should I do? And what would you do if you were in my position? If I was in your position, I would have never let him contact me ever again. This person is clearly unhinged. There's no way I would let that person back in my life. I can't believe that you met with him in public. There's no way I would let that happen. The way he acted around your child, the fact that he wanted to hold it first and freaked out when he didn't get to hold it first, that is not normal behavior. And the fact that he was making up things about Judy and Sam just to try and get with Sam is super creepy as well. I'm just in shock that you would even let that person back into your life in the first place. When it comes to my own personal safety, I would take Sam and Judy's experience as a wonderful litmus test of what could easily happen to me. Jim is not a good friend, and I would not even consider him an acquaintance after the way he acted. I would wipe my hands clean and say sorry, but I don't want to be friends with you. And if they ask why and get offended, I can give my reasons and then cut them off. And if they get upset, well, congratulations, get upset. That has nothing to do with me, my girlfriend, or my child. But that's just my opinion. What would you do? Leave a comment down below. We would love to hear what you have to say. I discovered flirty messages that my dad has been exchanging with another woman who is not my mom. I've always thought my dad and my mom had an amazing marriage. They've been together for almost 30 years. They're loving, funny, very close to each other, and to me and my brother. We are currently on vacation near our house, and while I was using my dad's phone to send my brother the pictures we took, Laura, a woman my parents know because they're in an amateur running team, sent him a message. I opened the chat because we always use each other's phones, so it was not weird for me to read his message. But what I saw when I opened the message almost made me cry. I had the strength and time before he came back to just read a few messages, but basically he was telling her that he wanted to take the dress she had yesterday evening off, and she replied with a laughing emoji. He then said some other suggestive things in the message that I think I'll spare you the details on. This woman is known for flirting with married men, but I've never for a moment thought my dad could do something so awful. He has always pretended to not like her very much, but this just changes everything. I felt my stomach drop, and now we are together till tomorrow, and I can't even look at him. I just want to cry. I haven't told anyone. I don't know what to do. Do I tell my brother first? Do I tell my aunt, who's my mom's sister, who happens to just be a therapist? What should I do? This is a tricky situation, but yeah, I would definitely get documentation of that first and foremost, personally. It is not okay to go around behind your wife's back and start flirting with another woman. I wouldn't go around talking to other people about it personally first. I would probably go to the dad first and be like, hey, I saw these messages, what gives? There might be some kind of details around this that you don't know about, so jumping to a serious conclusion might not be the best thing to do. Like, who knows? Maybe these inappropriate messages have a reason behind them, and there might be a chance where the mom's in on it, but I really doubt that. But either way, this is definitely a very scary situation, and I'm so sorry you have to deal with this. No one wants to hear that their dad is somehow flirting with another woman after you thought your entire life that they were loyal to their wife. Hopefully that's not the case. Hopefully there's some kind of deeper story behind this. Like, hopefully maybe there's some kind of weird, private, mutual reason these messages are happening, but I doubt that. Regardless of what happens though, I definitely wish you the best of luck in trying to navigate this, because this definitely sounds tricky. My family disapproves of my fiance, and I don't know what to do. I'm 32 and she's 33. I'm a very successful medical professional. I'm the oldest sibling and a role model son in a first-generation immigrant family. We live in the Midwest. My fiance is also a medical professional and lives on the East Coast, although her family is here. She's stunning, looks wise, and is a great person. We met on a dating app and we clicked immediately. We see each other about 2 times a month. We started dating 10 months ago. A quick note though, she makes a great living, but not nearly as much as I do, and her family is not as well off as mine is. We are both of the same religion, and due to this, and her being a woman, her family wouldn't approve of her living with me before marriage. She's looking at jobs to move back to my city, although she loves her life on the East Coast. It all seems nice, but here's the problem. My family thinks this is moving extremely quickly. My brother called me highly concerned about the situation. He's met her in person once and told me that he honestly got a terrible impression of her. I was floored. She's a bit introverted and was very nervous about wanting my family to like her at our meeting, so she went out of her way and got them gifts to try and win them over. He stated she would be a bad match for me and that he really thinks it's a great idea for her to move here and for us to live together first before we commit to an engagement. My brother is not religious and he didn't understand the cultural expectation that would basically say that that's not possible. He also feels like she's moving fast because of my profession and money, which is just not true. He's only met her one time and flaked another time when he was invited, so his opinion of her isn't very detailed. But to my surprise, my mother feels the same way as my brother, and now I'm freaking out. They are usually great judges of character, and now have me second guessing. No relationship is perfect, but I went into this with serious intentions from the beginning, and feel she'd be a great life partner and future mother to my children. A part of me also feels like they just haven't had the chance to get to know her, and that's a huge part of why they're scared for me. Another part of me is just feeling very defensive. It feels like this decision faces a lot of scrutiny, and honestly, it's always been like that since I'm the oldest sibling. All of this has me really nervous, and I'm not sure what to do. If you were in my situation, what would you do? It does feel a little bit fast, but I don't think it's that fast to really be weird. Like, long distance relationships can absolutely work, but maybe having her live in the area and spending much more quality time with her could probably put your family at ease and allow everybody to move forward and not be weirded out by this. Also, you get to be around your fiance much more, which is fantastic. I think your family will eventually get over it, and I don't think you're making a mistake. I think it's understandable that your family is feeling apprehensive about the whole situation because they've only met her one time, but I think with time and a little bit of effort, they can get to know her more, and then they'll probably feel really good about all of this. My girlfriend is upset because she wasn't invited to an event. Over a month ago, my brother invited me, my dad, and my older brother to a comedy show that we knew from our childhood. The show is coming up soon. A few days after, my brother invited me and my dad. My mom found out and wanted to be added to the list as well. It's not unusual for us to do some events as a family, even now that my brothers live in the next city over. A week or so ago, I found out that my older brother's girlfriend, who comes from a different country to stay with him occasionally, was going to be there around the time of the show. At first, we were under the impression that she would be leaving the day before, but plans changed, and he managed to snag a last-minute ticket for her sometime between when the whole thing was being arranged and now. I wasn't made privy to any such changes until recently. I told my girlfriend, whom I've been dating for 12 years, and she's very upset that she was not invited while my brother's girlfriend was. She told me this was not the first time something similar has happened, and she has mentioned that it upset her when my brother's girlfriend was invited to a family event while she wasn't. When my brother was still living at home, his girlfriend stayed at our house when she flew up to see him and worked in the city here for a few months a few years ago, so it was kind of unavoidable. I understand that she is upset, and I'm not arguing that it is unreasonable to be so, given that she is the only one left out, but the quantity of distress she shows over this seems unreasonable to me. It was a mistake on my part not to invite her, yes, but we spend a lot of time together doing other things, including things with my family, with her family, or especially just the two of us. And also, I wasn't the one buying the tickets or inviting people to the TV show event. I was under the impression it was just a family event, and when I learned that my older brother's girlfriend was coming, it would have been too late to buy any other tickets anyways. I'm not sure what to do from here. Should I just say I'm sorry and say something like, hey, next time something like this comes up, I'll be sure to invite you? Is she justified in thinking that this is an end of relationship deal breaker between us? What should I do? I'm really surprised that the girlfriend in this situation would consider this a deal breaker. Like, it just sounds like this is just the worst case scenario and a chain of events absolutely ruined any possibility of her coming along. But I don't think this should take away from the relationship. I think if anything, the guy should just say, hey, I'm not going to go to this event because my girlfriend can't come with me, and then buy out of the ticket. That way they can spend some time together and do their own thing. The guy said it best. It's not like they don't do things together. It seems like this was just kind of a one-off event and circumstances just had it so that the girlfriend wasn't coming along. It seemed like it went from this is just a family event with specific family members to, hey, let me bring my girlfriend along. And that by the time he was ready to try to ask, hey, can I bring my girlfriend along? It was way too late. Based on what we've been told, it doesn't seem intentional, and it doesn't seem like they're intentionally saying, hey, we don't want your girlfriend to come along. This seems more inconsequential than anything else. So no, I don't think this is a deal breaker. I think this is just being blown way out of proportion, and I think we need to pull this back a little bit. So in my opinion, I think the guy should absolutely just not go to the show and spend time with his girlfriend instead. Maybe they can have a date night and try and work things out. But ending a relationship just because you didn't get invited to a show seems a little ridiculous to me. But that's just my opinion. What do you think though? Leave a comment down below. What would you do if you were in this situation? An entitled, deranged old man blocks traffic by parking in a fire zone, and he absolutely loses his mind when he gets a ticket, despite being warned multiple times that this is exactly what was going to happen. It's a normal day, and I'm gathering shopping carts in a parking lot. At our store, the area directly in front of the store is designated as a fire zone. There is yellow markings painted on the road surface, denoting where the zone is, coupled with signs all along our storefront saying that it's a fire zone and that there is no parking or even stopping within it, and it's well away from any legitimate parking spots. Despite the markings though, and the signs, people still like to park there, usually just to grab a few things, as they say. Sometimes one person will park there and their partner will hop out to go shopping. Every time I'm out there grabbing shopping carts, I always walk over and tell them, hey, look, this is a fire zone. If bylaw swings by, you could get fined or even towed. Most people look at me like they expect me to pull a tow truck out of my back pocket and nail them right then and there. I usually have a follow-up with them saying, I'm just letting you know, in case you didn't know. If you want to park there, I'm not going to stop you, but it's your own fault if bylaw shows up. This is usually enough for most people to thank me for my diligence, park there anyway, and then go inside. Every so often, there's an oddball who will snark back at me along the lines of, what? Do you think I'm blind? I know where I parked. And I just apologize over and over until they walk away. But today was completely different. This old beat-up Ford comes in hard and almost squeals to a stop in the fire zone. I just happen to be passing by with carts, thankfully on the sidewalk. I don't want to imagine what might have happened otherwise, and I get his attention. He's easily north of 65 and probably enjoying his 70s. He's got a Friar Tuck haircut and whatever the male equivalent of resting angry face is, if you know what I mean. I can already tell, even as I'm opening my mouth, that this is probably a bad idea. It was just a force of habit at this point, to be completely honest. I look at him and I say, excuse me, sir, this is a fire zone you've parked in. If bylaws come by while you're inside, you
could get fined or towed. He scowls back at me and says,
So? Bylaws never show up. Who do you think you are? What are you, the grocery police?
I'm already adopting the customer service apology face, and that's when I said, no sir, I'm not trying to tell you what to do. I was just... He then cut me off. He said,
You're right about that one. You aren't gonna tell me what to do. I've been driving a car since you were just a disappointing runt for your mother at prom night. I'll park anywhere I please, and there's nothing you could do about it.
I tried to start again by saying, sir, I was only trying to tell you, but before I could even get another word out, he cuts me off again, and he gets right in my face with his finger.
You don't tell me nothing. I tell you what's what, and you just get out of my way and go do your worthless minimum wage job for the rest of your miserable, worthless life.
All I could really say at that point was, yes, sir. He puffs out his chest, glares at me, and goes inside. I look up as he's leaving, and who do I spot pulling in but Greg? Greg is a bylaw officer, and I see his vehicle. I look at the truck, and I smile. I practically sprint to him. He sees me coming and greets me and asks me how my day's going. I tell him it's going terrible, but I say, but hopefully about to get a whole lot better. He responds with a why not, and that's when I point to the beat up Ford. I tell him, this jerk just tore me a new one for trying to tell him that he's parked in a fire zone. You mind giving him some karma? Greg smiles at this request, as he loves sticking it back to the bullies. He says, I can do that. He grabs his ticket book and he heads over. It was hilarious. He started in on writing the ticket while I went about my business. The old guy takes his sweet time getting back out of the store, and he shows up just in time to see Greg slip the ticket under his wiper. I was inside the store at the time, so I didn't get to hear it all, but the old guy was screaming and cursing at the top of his lungs at Greg, who was responding to him with a composed manner, calmly explaining the ticket process. He spoke to the guy for a few minutes, then went inside the store. And while the fine was only $150, it felt oh so good. I love this type of karma because it is absolutely so deserved. In my honest opinion, if you treat people in customer service like garbage, stuff like this absolutely should come your way. It doesn't happen often. Sometimes these deranged Karens get away with saying so many terrible things. But in those rare cases, the universe smiles down on all of us and gives us back beautiful moments where justice is served. This old man absolutely had it coming for treating that guy like that after he was just trying to warn him, hey, you're gonna get a ticket. It's beautiful to see, and hopefully if he ever comes back to that store, he'll have a little bit better of an attitude and he won't be so aggressively rude. My boyfriend's parents are embarrassed he's choosing community college instead of going to a university. First, let me start with my boyfriend's sister. His sister decided to go to university in California. They bragged about it all over social media. They pay the fees for her tuition, her apartment, her rent, groceries, and everything else, and it all totals up to $100,000. When my boyfriend told his parents he wanted to go to a community college, his parents, more specifically his mom, got so upset she cried about it. Then, because he actually chose the community college, they decided to make him pay for everything, which includes his tuition and his car payments, which is about $5,000 to $10,000. She begged him to go to a university, and she also asked me to dinner just so she could beg me to make him choose a university. Also, as an FYI, he's transferring to a university after community college. To go further, his sister is an acting major and got an award, which of course they all bragged about. Meanwhile, she has a DUI. His mom was more concerned about people finding out in our hometown than actually dealing with the problem. May I mention they paid for the lawyer and never really punished her anyway? When finding out their daughter was arrested and spent a night in the county jail, they bailed her out, and the first thing they, meaning his mom, said was, people are gonna see her wearing an ankle bracelet? My boyfriend got a 4.0 and got an award, to which she never mentioned anything anywhere on any social media or even congratulated him. He is an engineering major, has super hard classes, stays up late doing homework, meanwhile also working at his dad's office part-time while his sister hasn't had a job since starting college 3 years ago. Now his younger sister is choosing a big university just like his other sister, which again they all bragged about. They will pay for everything just like his other sister. So basically, she's more concerned about her image and bragging rights over anything else. And my boyfriend's mom will punish her kids if they embarrass her in any way. And honestly, my boyfriend got the worst of it all because he went to community college. If I'm being completely honest, community college is a lot more affordable and sometimes smarter to go to than some top university. You pay less, you're able to get stuff done quicker, and 9 times out of 10, you're probably getting a quality education. There's nothing wrong with going to a community college. And I think he's doing it right by going to a community
community college and then transferring to a university that specializes in engineering. Like, that's a really smart plan. You can get a lot of your general education stuff out of the way, and then you can just focus on your university studies specific to your major. So I don't know why his mom is so bent out of shape about him going to college at a community college, and she should honestly just treat him better. My husband is angry with me after I used his hall pass he gave me after he cheated on me. We've been together for 6 years. Let me first explain what this hall pass means. It basically means that I can go sleep with whoever I want at least once after he cheated on me. You see, my husband confessed to having an affair 7 months ago. I couldn't get over it initially, and our quality time has tanked because of it, if you know what I mean. He ended up offering me this hall pass because he felt like if we were even, it would fix the issue. At first, I was angry that he would even suggest it, but he has been pushing it on me, and so I accepted it, and guess what? I finally redeemed it and spent some quality time with someone else, if you know what I mean. I told him afterwards, and he wanted to know who, what, where, when, and how. He said I could use the hall pass with anyone I wanted, but when he found out I used it with my brother's best friend, which is a person that he really dislikes, he was furious and was acting like I had cheated on him, almost as if what I did is worse than what he did to me. He ended up confronting this guy in front of my brother, which was a huge mess and just embarrassed both of us. I don't know what to do now since he is still so angry at me and is barely giving me more than 2-word answers. What should I do? I know the story wasn't started as an am I the jerk situation, but yes, both of you are jerks in this situation. The guy is 100% a jerk, and a lot more than just a jerk for cheating on you 7 months ago, but you are also a jerk for not only accepting a hall pass type situation from this man, but also choosing to stick with him after he blatantly had an affair behind your back. And then you redeem the hall pass. This is just mind-boggling to me. Both of you need to break up and see other people. First and foremost, this guy was pushing this hall pass situation on you so he would feel less guilty about cheating on you. Why would you stick with someone like that? And then why would you then redeem that hall pass as some kind of an excuse to go with another man? Is there any loyalty in this relationship in the slightest? Now, don't get me wrong. I am 100% on the side of the lady in this situation for the most part. Her husband is an absolute garbage human being. Full stop. End of story. And she should absolutely get out of this toxic, abusive relationship. This man has no idea what it means to be loyal and faithful in a marriage because he gave his wife permission to be unfaithful and then was upset when she was unfaithful. But hey, you gave her a hall pass. Why are you upset? This is comically a disaster. And I think both of these people will be a lot better off separating and going their separate ways. My husband told his friends that having children was the worst decision he ever made. Yesterday, his friends came over for dinner because it was their boys' night. So I was just hanging out and watching a movie in our room. But at one point, I went to see if the kids were sleeping. And since one of them was thirsty, I went downstairs to get a glass of water in the kitchen. And there I inadvertently heard their conversation. My husband was saying that he had a vasectomy again because he's really sick of having children, that he loves our children, but that having them was the worst decision he made in his entire life, that he only had children with me because he loves me and knows that I always wanted to be a mom. One of his friends told him that saying that is horrible, and he said that it's the truth, that sometimes he wishes it was just the two of us again. Then all of his friends started talking at the same time, and they all said that he always said he was happy to finally have children, and that he never talked like that about our kids. So they asked him what was going on, and he said he doesn't know what's happening with him, but that he just feels like that lately. And that hurt me so much. My husband is an amazing father. He loves our children and they absolutely adore him. He is really involved with everything that has to do with them. It's not like he's one of those horrible parents who just ignores his children. So I don't understand what's going on or why he said that. And I have no idea how to talk to him about this either. I feel so angry and hurt that I don't know what to say exactly. All I've been doing these last few hours is being mad and not talking to him, and he doesn't know what's going on either. And he's asked a bunch of times, but I don't feel ready to talk about it right now. I'm afraid if we talk about it now, I'll say things that will hurt, and I don't want that. How should I confront him about this? That is a really tough one. It sounds like the guy is absolutely a fantastic father, and he's stepping up to the occasion, and he's doing everything you would want him to do in a relationship, but maybe there's some underlying things going on that he's probably never discussed with you. It's probably good that you do know this, but at the end of the day, it's a really weird way to find out. Regardless of how you approach this, I hope it goes well, and I hope things are able to get worked out between the two of you. My sister gave me an ultimatum. It's either choosing her or my current girlfriend. Things have been spiraling out of control, and I've been mentally weak as of late. I'm a 22-year-old male, and I have been dating my girlfriend for about 3 months, and my girlfriend has been mentally unstable as of late, and I'm trying to help her regain her stability. I don't want to get into the details because it would be too long to describe, but essentially she is bipolar, and she's taking medications to help with this, and she has set up appointments with a psychiatrist so that they can help her get therapy. She has had a lot of struggles surrounding her bipolar disorder, and we've worked together to try and find some solutions for her. I have really strong feelings for her, and I love her, and I want to be with her and help her recover and change, despite the difficulties we have faced. My sister then comes into the equation. She knows about my girlfriend, and they communicate with each other after my girlfriend met my parents. To add on, they're going to be attending the same university next year. It was very good at first, but when she came to know about her incidents and some of the struggles she's had, she got really upset and said that she tried to have a good discussion with her, but my girlfriend stonewalled her. I don't know how they conversed over text after they first met, but my sister's frustrations were growing and growing. I didn't tell my sister the full extent of the problems, but she told me before I should break up with her, and I refused. When they met again, I thought they sorted out their differences, and it was all good, but I was completely wrong. I honestly think my sister did not want to be proactive at all. I'm trying to help my girlfriend overcome her issues because I really feel like we are compatible in different aspects, and I feel really bad, but my sister unknowingly tried to set me up with one of her friend's older sisters, and I got really upset since I was already in a relationship. I was under the assumption I would only take her to the mall, but I was so upset and lost my composure. We had an argument on the way back home, and to be honest, arguments are typically a normal thing with this sibling. I wanted to be honest, so I texted my girlfriend the details of the incident, and she was also super upset. My girlfriend and I are currently doing a long-distance relationship, and after she finished up work at her internship, she called my sister, and they were yelling on the phone for about 20 to 30 minutes. My sister proceeded to block her on all social media and her phone number too. She told me the details of the call and how my girlfriend insulted her and said awful things about her character. Upon that, my sister admitted to making a mistake, but she was really upset and told my girlfriend about what happened. My sister has a very low opinion of her and called her a grade A narcissist. She proceeded to say I was defending her bad behavior and then gave me an ultimatum to choose either my girlfriend or her. The way I want to deal with this situation is to just let it blow over with time, and when my sister is at school out of state and moving in, I will join her to help and bring my girlfriend and have them talk out their differences in front of me. A sister and a girlfriend hold their own respective places in your life, and I'm not going to do this picking and choosing. It is so unfair of me and kind of manipulative to be forced to choose like this. I love my girlfriend still, and my sister was in the wrong for doing it, and I felt obligated to tell my girlfriend what happened, even though I knew she would go off the rails if she heard about this. So overall, it's just a messy situation, and I really hope it gets worked out. This is such a tricky situation, but most of all, it is super uncalled for the sister to try and set up his boyfriend with another girl when he is already in a relationship. And yeah, that relationship is not perfect, but trying to set up your brother with someone else, even though they're in a relationship that they're trying to make work, is not okay. The original poster goes into more detail about how his girlfriend has been abusive in the past, verbally as well as physically, so I do understand where the sister's coming from, with her trying to set him up with somebody else, but I think the delivery was all wrong. And personally, I think it's a terrible idea to bring your girlfriend over to your sister's dorm just to try and have them sort their problems out. That is a recipe for disaster. Overall, this is kind of a weird situation, and I think you should really think carefully about what you do next, because it could spell disaster for either your sister or your girlfriend, or most of all, probably yourself. Today, I messed up by applying for a fake job online. This happened 2 weeks ago, but I just received an update regarding it and thought I would share it. I was looking for a second remote job online, and I saw a bunch of posts about data entry jobs and decided to apply to a bunch of them. A few days later, one of them reached out for an interview. The interview was conducted through a messaging app called Wire, where I was asked a series of questions related to the job, as well as some general information. When I was done, I was given an offer and was told that a check would be mailed to me so that I could purchase the necessary equipment. A check for over $4,000 arrived the next day, and at that point, I thought I got lucky in landing what was supposed to be a part-time gig. I was instructed to deposit the check and then send the money out to the vendors for the equipment. After having issues with sending the money out online due to the bank flagging it as some sort of fraud and not letting the transaction go through, I went to a branch and made a wire transfer. Now, here's the issue. The check was fake. 2 days later, the check bounced and over $4,000 $4,000 was taken out of my savings account, which already had around $1,200 in it. I now owed the bank over $3,000. I filed a fraudulent claim on all the wire transactions, as well as the check, but today I got the news that the bank was unable to retrieve my money. I'm not sure what to do next. My accounts are frozen and I can't access any of my accounts online. I even tried creating another account and have my direct deposit sent to it, but the bank automatically transferred what was in the new account into the old one since I still had a remaining balance on it. The only thing I was able to do was to withdraw some money from my checking and create a new account with a different bank and have all my direct deposits go to that bank. So yeah, I messed up big time. Yeah, you're not kidding, you definitely messed up. I don't think I've ever heard of a job where they send you a check for over $4,000 to buy equipment. And you should have stopped once the bank said, hey, this is a scam. Instead, you went ahead and did a bunch of wire transfers and now look where you are. You have a negative $3,000 balance in your account. This is a hard lesson to learn, but it's a lesson you learn pretty quickly once it happens. Like literally his bank was looking out for him, trying to stop him from doing some fraudulent activity, and he got completely played. So the moral of the story is you gotta be careful where you're getting checks, and honestly, you shouldn't have tried to cash the check. You should have just said, hey, I'm gonna deposit the check and we'll wait for it to clear. And if it bounces back, then you know for a fact it's a scam. But even then, no one just sends you $4,000 to buy equipment. I'm sorry, but that is not how this works for an entry-level data entry job. So yeah, do your research next time and be better. I worked for my grandparents and it was the most soul-crushing experience of my life. So I live with my grandparents. I just graduated high school in 2021 and I've been attending a local community college before I transferred to a 4-year university in the fall. I stayed home to take care of the house, like mowing the lawn and other chores such as that. They own a local business and don't have time to take care of everything. Well, I've made a mistake by doing this. I love my grandpa, but he doesn't see how narcissistic, mean, grouchy, and how much of a soul-crushing person he is. He has also emotionally manipulated and abused me and my brother in the past. He had also raised us very strictly, to the point of both of us being afraid of him when he would get home, because nothing would satisfy him. Nothing could be clean enough or done his way enough. He would yell at us and then threaten to take away everything we like. He would say things like, "Is this how you treat us after everything we've done for y'all, after we've provided so much? Do y'all not love us?" And then he would start quoting the Bible, saying we're being disobedient and not honoring our parents. Well, the past few days, I've been looking around for a summer job. Last fall and this spring, when I was in college, I had a work-study program, and I plan on getting one when I transfer back to school in the fall. Today, he walked in and asked me if I was planning on getting a job or staying cooped up in the house on my lazy butt. I respectfully told him I've been looking, and then without missing a beat, he started getting on me about my weight. I get that, and I don't mind that. I then sat down and in 20 minutes applied for 3 different jobs just to try and satisfy this weird need he has to always have me moving. He asked me what I was doing, and I told him that I applied for some jobs, but the jobs are about 30 minutes away. He then goes ranting on how they need help at their store, and that I could make the same amount of money working for them as I could anywhere else. I said, yes, sir, because if I say anything else, he'll get more mad and then just go off on me. He then told me I was going to work for them for the next 4 years until I graduate, and then I can work where I want to. But until then, apparently I have to work for them. The job itself is stocking shelves, and I would do this twice a week, as well as mow the lawn of some of their rental properties that they own. Now, I've done this job once before last summer, and it's the most soul-crushing thing on earth. It is absolute hell working for him. All the workers are afraid of him, and they know not to talk to him. He is a mean grouch of a person, but if we're going to church or if we're in the public eye, he's totally different. He can also be nice one second and then incredibly angry for the next. I'm not sure what to do in this situation, so any advice would be really appreciated. You need to figure out a way to get away from this. I'm sorry to be the one to break it to you, but you grew up with a very abusive guardian. I don't care that he's your grandparent. This man has no business acting like this and treating people so poorly. And he has no right to tell you where you can and cannot work. You are not obligated to him in any way. The original poster in this situation is still very young, so I can understand the hesitancy of trying to get away from his grandparents and trying to be his own man. But trust me when I say this, you will get away from them eventually, and you're going to flourish as you're able to be your own man and do your own thing, even if that means putting up with him for just a little bit longer. Am I the jerk for thinking that my husband is lying about having cancer? So my husband and I have been married for 4.5 years. We met when we were in 7th grade, and the relationship hasn't been perfect at all. He is a compulsive liar, and he drinks a lot. Over the course of our relationship, he has lied almost weekly about drinking and almost daily about small things. things, like what he had for dinner or if he brushed his teeth at all. Anyways, I left him in May of 2021 after I found him passed out in the bathroom because he huffed a can of air. We moved out. The kids and I lived with my best friend, and we were co-parenting fairly well. Then in October, he shared he had lab work done and needed to go back because he had a growth on his liver. The supposed official diagnosis came in December, on the day of our wedding anniversary no less. I invited him back into the home under the pretext that I would take care of him while he was sick. He said he had 12 rounds of chemo, surgery, and all this other stuff planned. He did not want me to go with him to his first appointment because apparently he needed space. We were separated, so I didn't push it. But I wasn't letting him keep away from the chemo treatments. So I took him to the hospital, but he wouldn't allow me to go inside. He stated that there's COVID restrictions, and I believed that. And the fact that he would also be around other cancer patients led me to trust him. I stayed in the car for about 4 hours once a week. After 6 weeks, he said he was done with part 1 and that it was time for them to look at the scans and plan for surgery. When the results of the scans came, his cancer was magically gone. I mean, come on, what a miracle. I asked for some lab work or documentation to prove it was finally over. I couldn't believe my ears, to be completely honest. I needed to see it in writing. He said they don't do that, and that's when I started to get suspicious. I asked for any documentation, a bill, a patient portal, literally anything. He couldn't produce anything. I called the man he claimed to be his doctor to find out when his follow-up appointment was, so I could put it on our calendar on our fridge, and they had no history of him in their system. So I asked him to confirm the doctor's name and number that I called, to which he did, and lo and behold, I called the right place. He showed me a portal, but it was for a hospital, not a specific doctor or specialty. So I went to the hospital to see if I could make the same portal without any doctor's information. And guess what? I could. I eventually said I was going to bring in a third party to mediate if he couldn't provide anything. I needed to know if I'm just a crazy person for accusing him of something so outlandish. And the next day he provided me with an invoice, finally. However, it looked super sketchy. I looked up fake invoice online, and literally the first link was identical to the invoice he sent me, but it was an edited version. He was able to input what he needed, his name, the doctor, and the address. It was all just a template he could fill out. The more evidence I look at, the more I think he doesn't actually have cancer, but I'm not sure how to proceed from here. So what do I do? Am I crazy for accusing him of lying? I don't think you're crazy. This sounds pretty logical. This guy's clearly faking this and he has no proof otherwise. What on earth is he doing at the hospital 4 hours a week? And why would he waste this lady's time just to have her drive him there and wait? Did he really think that she wasn't going to ask for proof that his cancer is now magically gone? Like, I'm no medical professional, but I'm pretty sure it doesn't work like that. I'm also willing to bet that there's 100% some type of documentation stating that his cancer is gone. For something that severe, there's absolutely a paper trail. And the fact that the doctor's office did not even recognize that this guy was a patient is more than enough evidence to say, hey, this guy's lying. So yeah, it sounds like you have a lot to talk about in this situation because it 100% does not sound like this guy's being at all honest with you. I agreed to move in with my boyfriend, but now I'm having second thoughts. My boyfriend and I have been together for a year. We lived together from January to April of this year until we both moved back home for the summer. We made plans to move in together next school year. However, recently I found out one of my brother's roommates may be moving out next September and I could take their room. My boyfriend is very clingy and I don't mind it very much most of the time. However, I am heading into my third year of nursing school and I'm going to be extremely busy, and my boyfriend can be quite emotionally draining at times because of the amount of attention he wants. I have talked to him about it multiple times, but it doesn't change much. When I told him about maybe moving into my brother's, he told me I wouldn't like it if I moved in and that I can't just bail on him now. My brother likes to have parties a decent amount and my brother does not like them. I know what my boyfriend is like to live with, and I've been thinking about it more and more. I think it would be better for me to move in with my brother because I think the workload of third year nursing will be too much to deal with when living with my partner who wants a lot of attention, and he also almost never leaves the house because he doesn't have friends to hang out with and doesn't have a heavy school load usually. He only has a maximum of maybe 3 classes. Is it okay for me to bail out on living with him after agreeing to do it before? What should I do? It is absolutely okay for you to bail on him. There's nothing wrong with saying, hey, I'm gonna live with my brother. In my opinion, that doesn't mean that you don't love your boyfriend. It just means that you need more space to be able to get your studies done. And let me tell you, as someone who has a family member who was a nurse, nursing school is hard. It is not easy and it takes a lot out of you. So I totally understand where she is coming from in her saying, hey, I need more time to get this done. There's a lot of rotations, there's a lot of classes and labs. It is like a 16-hour workday for students sometimes. So it's a very serious commitment. So I completely understand and respect that, hey, she has a lot of studying and she needs to get this done. It's not going to be like this all the time, and the boyfriend definitely needs to understand that. But for right now, going into a schooling this difficult, it's very important for her to be able to focus. And it's also a little disturbing that the boyfriend's not really willing to change. Like, you would think he would be at least willing to step up to the plate and do what he needs to do to fit his girlfriend's needs, especially since he only takes 3 classes a semester. That is not that much work at all. And chances are his girlfriend's probably taking 18 plus credits, which is not surprising to me for a nursing major. So yeah, in my opinion, move in with your brother and don't think twice about it. Anyone, anywhere is allowed to change their mind on anything at any point, and hopefully your boyfriend can learn to understand that. I am always being ripped off by my boyfriend and being forced to baby him, and I'm sick and tired of it. When it comes to relationships, I'm pretty confident in saying that I'm not interested in money at all. I never look for a rich guy when I start dating someone, and I don't expect constant gifts or constant dates. I have no problem doing 50-50 on dates. I don't want to be a stay-at-home wife and let my man do all the providing. I like working and having my independence. I have never asked anybody for money in my life, ever. I was raised that way. Nothing against people who do take loans from others as long as they return it, but it's just something I personally do not like to engage in. I hate depending on people, and I've gotten to a point in my life where I can live quite comfortably off of my own salary. Compared to the usual salaries in my country, I make a decent amount. I consider myself capable of giving myself all the luxuries I want, which is why I don't need a man who's always spending on me. I don't take money from anybody else and I get everything done, and that's how my life had been for a while. Then I met this guy last October who is perfect for me in every way. I fell in love after a long time and everything was so right. He's everything I ever wanted in a guy. He makes me feel so happy and he's so gentle and caring and affectionate. I'm so used to my previous toxic and abusive relationships that a relationship like this was something unknown to me. During the time I met him, I was trying to move out of home and was looking for a roommate to split the costs with. I met some girls for this, and I remember discussing with my boyfriend how these girls seem to be so flaky and unreliable, and how I don't want to be part of it because in the end, I'll have to do everything for them. He told me to be patient and to wait until we can move in together. So I did. Before I met him, he was working for his ex-girlfriend's brother, and in return for working for him, the ex's girlfriend's brother would cover all the costs and do everything for him. So obviously, after getting into a relationship with me, he ended this arrangement, and then he got really broke. I tried to be understanding at first. He was in a bad situation with not many options. He started asking for money, filling my head with sob stories of how helpless he is, and how bad it will be if he doesn't have this much. I helped him out, thinking it was a one-off thing. It wasn't. He would call me every time he needed to buy something or needed to get something to eat. Every single day. At that point, I still wanted to help him, so I did. Then I got broke because of him. I only had money left in my savings, and he knew it. I mentioned to him that I'm broke. Soon after, he came to me with another sob story asking for money. He didn't directly ask this time, just kept telling me the exact amount he needed. And it wasn't a small amount, mind you. It was around $100. He kept repeating this until I finally took money from my savings and gave it to him. He didn't even say thank you. He has never once gotten me a gift. Never. Then we made an arrangement that we will move in together and split everything 50-50. I don't know why I agreed to this, and I don't think I believed him even then. Maybe it's the fact that I finally fell in love again and I was way too happy to see otherwise. Everything has been terrible since. He has been trying to get a job. He really has. I know he has. But I hate to even say it, he is honestly so useless. We moved into one place and had to move in a month. He paid half of the rent that time. Then we moved into another place and he didn't pay for anything. Just stayed around leeching off of me like a grown parasite. He chose the places. They had very cheap rent, cheap enough for me to pay on my own. He probably thought all of that out because he loves making me pay. They were so cheap that they were completely unreliable. They were so unreliable that the second time we were asked to move with a 4-day notice. Because of that, we ended up homeless. For the next 2 weeks, we stayed at a hotel until things could be figured out. Who paid for the hotel? Surprise, surprise, it was me. Fun fact, when this event happened, I just got an annual leave. So instead of spending my annual leave on a holiday somewhere, I was homeless inside of a seedy hotel. And the list goes on and on. It's always about money, and it's always about my boyfriend never being reliable. I have confronted him several times about all of this, and I always always get the same response. He tells me how hard he's trying and how helpless he is. If I say something too harshly, he'll cry after I go to sleep. It's honestly ridiculous and I'm not sure what to do from here. It sounds like you need to dump this guy and get yourself somebody who actually cares about you. Or in all actuality, it sounds like you're totally fine on your own. Like sometimes relationships are not a good fit, and this guy is absolutely taking advantage of you. He probably views his relationship with you as someone who can finally take care of him while he does nothing. Fun fact, everybody's hiring, and if he's really looking for a job, even if it's some low-level entry job, he can find it. It might not be ideal and it might be a little bit embarrassing to work at such places, but if it makes ends meet in your life and you're able to get things done, then who cares? Overall, the way he's acting is super disrespectful, and I'm super proud of you for being so proactive in your life. And honestly, you can do so much better than this deadbeat. So in my opinion, kick him to the curb, get your life together, and live your life without having to babysit and carry another grown man along with you. My husband just admitted that he's not willing to meet my needs. The title says it all. Basically, things haven't been right between us for about 3 years. We've been fighting, usually about his dishonesty, approximately every 2 weeks. As far as I know, there's been no cheating. It's just that he lies to me about big things and is not emotionally honest with me. We had a terrible fight on Monday. I'm not sure how much details required, but in a nutshell, he had committed through his therapist's suggestion to spend 15 minutes a day telling me about his day. We are trying to work on honesty, but he hadn't done it yet, despite me encouraging him to do it. We tentatively made up on Tuesday, but something didn't feel right with me, and suddenly I had a eureka moment. This man doesn't care about me. I told him this in the most loving way possible, and he was surprised, or at least acted that way. He said he does care about me, and that perhaps I should attend therapy to work out why I think that. I asked him to make me feel more loved, and he doubled down on this being a me problem and needing to attend therapy. I tried to communicate that if he was thinking he was showing me love, it's just not translating through to me. And I think I did a really good job of that, using non-threatening language and not blaming him when we talked. I asked him to think about whether he could perhaps try to meet my needs in a way that was important to me. Like, for example, doing more emotional work in the relationship or showing affection in my love language. And he outright said no. I'm devastated. I've worked so hard in trying to be more understanding and supportive and what he needs for me to be. And for him to not have any empathy for me, feeling unloved and not cared for, stings. I suppose that I should feel grateful that after 17 years and 2 children, he finally found it in him to be honest with me. What should I do? There's an old saying that comes to mind that I think really fits this situation. When someone shows you who they are, believe them. Or in this case, if someone tells you who they are, you should believe them. The person in this story absolutely deserves to be loved and absolutely cared for. The fact that this guy is not willing to come to her level, regardless of if that's up or down, and be there for her and try and be more honest in their marriage, is completely unacceptable. This is really a sad situation to be stuck in, because it sounds like the lady in this situation has done everything she can to try and meet her husband's needs, but the guy is not willing to show her love in the way that she needs it. It's really disappointing, and I hope you get this worked out, because the original poster deserves to feel loved just like anybody else. My brother pretends to have a meltdown only to realize it was all for nothing. I have a younger brother who's about 16 years old, who is literally the most selfish, entitled, careless person I've ever met or learned about. He hogs the TV even if he doesn't use it, eats all the food in the fridge, and if he doesn't like it, he literally throws it out and is mad that we bought food that he doesn't like. He constantly demands either money or expensive stuff from our parents. He doesn't clean at all, deletes my games from our shared gaming console to make room for his own games, and the list goes on. You get the picture. He is an absolute nightmare to live with, and I am honestly counting down the days to when I can move out. And before anyone asks, no, he does not have any mental health issues. He's just a jerk. So today, my little brother went to my mom and demanded money for a haircut. She disagreed, stating that he just had his haircut like a week ago, and that they made a deal that he'll get haircut money once a month. So he made a whole scene, yelling, guilt-tripping, slamming his door. When he noticed that it wasn't working and that his normal antics were not getting through, he then demanded that mom cut his hair. She tried to tell him that she is not going to be able to do the very specific haircut that he wants, but he would just continuously yell at her to just cut his hair. And let me tell you, my mom really tried, and I think she did quite a good job considering the way he was acting. But my brother decided he hates it and threw a fit, shaving his entire head. Then, if that's not enough, he faked a meltdown, slammed the bathroom door, and started to make very obvious fake sobbing noises, yelling at mom that she ruined his life and that she was prioritizing money over her son. My mom looked like she wanted to cry too. At this point, I've had enough. I absolutely unleashed it on him. I yelled at him that I I would absolutely not tolerate the way he spoke to mom and to apologize immediately. He refused, and I told him he was bullying mom because he couldn't realize that the world didn't revolve around him. I told him that he only cared about himself, and that if he were so ugly as he said, at least the outside world matched the inside. I told him that if he keeps up this behavior, I would encourage mom to only buy him diapers, as that's the only thing that seems developmentally appropriate for him. After this long tirade, I told him he would either apologize to mom or I would call dad, who would make my little speech seem like praise. At this point, he stormed out of the bathroom, threw the tiniest little sorry at mom, and locked himself in his room. To be honest, I feel a little bad. I obviously can imagine that a bad haircut can ruin your day, but lashing out and cursing at mom, who only tried to help, is unacceptable, and I absolutely will not tolerate that behavior ever again. Good on this sibling for stepping up and defending the mom. Being a parent is already hard enough, but it makes it even worse when you have a child that acts like this. There's no legitimate excuse for this person to act like this towards their mom. She didn't do anything wrong, and it sounds like this kid literally got a haircut like a week ago. Why on earth would he want another haircut? And then when he gets a haircut from his mom, he freaks out and loses his mind. Like, I'm willing to guess that the mom definitely does not cut hair for a living. So she did the best she could considering the circumstances, and probably just to make her kid shut up. But at the end of the day, the original poster stood up for his mom and came to her defense, because nobody should talk to their parents like that, especially when the parents are trying to do everything right. My wife got scammed into losing all of our money. This happened a few months ago. My wife, a hardworking, trusting woman, got a phone call from the same number as the bank we use. They mentioned a possible fraudulent charge from a shopping mart over 500 miles away that supposedly came from us. She thinks nothing of it and tells them that it definitely was not us. The bank tells her that it was for $700. My wife begins to panic because she knows that this money is going to be used for bills and food for the week. She tells them it's not us and that we need the money back as soon as possible. They say it's not a problem and that they just need our savings account number and our routing info to get the money back to us. She gives it to them, thinking nothing of it, since the call is from the bank that we use. But in all actuality, this is where the mess up begins. She calls me while I'm busy at work and tells me someone got our card info and took the money in our checking account and the details. I don't think much of it because I've had people get my card info off gas pumps in the past. She calls me an hour later, frantic and in tears, and tells me that someone has now taken all of the money in our savings account too. She tries to redial the number that called her previously, but it says it's no longer in service. When she dials the number to call our bank, she is told that they would never call us to get our account information. Deep down, she knew better, but she trusted a scammer who took all of our money and then took all of our savings too. She learned her lesson big time, and luckily, after a few days, the bank found us not at fault and reimbursed all of our money, thankfully. That is a scary situation to be in. It's super crazy that these scammers are getting sophisticated enough that they can fake having a number coming from your bank. But the original poster has it correct. Your bank would never call you asking for any kind of account information. And it was such a specific amount too, $700. Like, you have to know when someone calls up saying, hey, you spent $700 500 miles away, that it most definitely was not you. It would be different if you were on vacation and you bought something expensive, but even then, sometimes your bank will step in and be like, whoa, is this you? Like, if I'm purchasing anything with my card that is outside the norm, my bank has it set up where they will text me and be like, is this you? It can sometimes be tedious, but I would much rather it be tedious than to have to worry about all of my money disappearing from my account. That sounds like an absolute nightmare. So overall, I'm super glad that these people got their money back, and hopefully they learned a valuable lesson. Don't give your information out on the phone. It doesn't matter if it's even the bank that's supposedly asking for it, because chances are, if they're asking for that info, they're 100% a scammer. Today, I messed up by tearing off the gas pump hose as I drove away. Today, I started pumping my gas and went into the gas station to use the restroom. As I returned, I was writing up a very funny post on social media and chuckling at my cleverness. I got back in my car, started it up, and drove away very confidently. There was instantly a startling bang and a rumbling dragging noise behind me, and I knew right away that I had messed up. I got out of the car and stared in dismay at the hose of the gas pump dangling behind my car, attached to the handle which was still firmly stuck in my car. In my shock and panic, I then proceeded to get back into the car and reverse to the pump, driving over the hose and snapping the handle off in the process. With a deep sense of shame, I walked into the gas station, ready to receive an earful and a big bill. Instead, the gas station attendant thanked me for telling him. Apparently, this happens about once a month, and most people just get out of their cars, remove the handle and the hose, and then drive away. I haven't haven't felt this relieved in a while, and thankfully, I don't have to pay for the broken pump. This is literally my nightmare every time I stop to get gas. I don't typically walk away from my car while my car is filling up, like that's a big taboo thing for me personally, because I know for a fact that my scatterbrain is going to forget that I'm pumping gas, and then I will become the next person of the month to rip that gas pump out of the tank. And you can bet that the gas attendant absolutely does not care that that pump got ripped off. They work at a gas station. I can't think of a job that would be more frustrating than dealing with people complaining about gas all day. If I were willing to guess, that gas station employee who's definitely just working at an hourly rate does not care if all of the gas pumps get ripped off. If that happens, that means less people come in. And if I was in their shoes, I'd probably be happy about that. All jokes aside, I'm really happy that this person didn't get in trouble, as that would have been really lame if they did. And thankfully, they get to walk away and not have to pay for replacing the hose on the pump, because you can bet that's probably expensive.
An entitled Karen has to get escorted off of public pool property by the police after she refuses to get her son out of the pool during a thunderstorm. I worked as a lifeguard for many years back in high school and in my first summer after college. I usually loved it, but we would get the occasional Karen with her bratty kids at the pool sometimes. My favorite story happened this past summer. That day was supposed to be a great day. It was stormy out. I was working a double with my favorite manager and the other coworkers that I liked, and our supervisor brought us Sonic during the thunder breaks. It was all overall going really well. That is until this Karen and her kid came up. During one of the thunder breaks, we were all sitting in the grand office finishing up our food. A little kid, probably 4 or 5, came up to us and started demanding that we share some of our tater tots with him. It's a rule that lifeguards can't give patrons any of our personal food for safety reasons, such as allergies. So we offered him some snacks from our snack bin that we use when a kid gets tired or dehydrated. He threw a fit because apparently goldfish were beneath him, and he screamed about how unfair it was. We told him to leave the guard area and said the snack offer was still on the table if he wanted it. The kid immediately ran out of our office to his mom. He's crying, snot bubbling, and screaming about how we get snacks and he doesn't. And this is where the entitled Karen comes storming up to our office and starts threatening to report us to our supervisor for eating on the job, and apparently for rubbing it in our patrons' faces, that we have food and they don't. She then started berating us about how we weren't allowing anybody in the pool due to it being a bit stormy, claiming that we were lying about the thunder. At this point, we were all annoyed. We explained that we can't give personal food to pool patrons, as it's against the rules, and that everyone is out of the water due to it being unsafe. We even pulled up a radar and showed her that there were lightning strikes within 5 miles of the pool. Of course, she wasn't having it, and she stormed off. At this point, most of the pool patrons were leaving because the storm was only getting worse, so we figured she'd give us dirty looks and then leave. But oh boy was I wrong. Instead of being a reasonable and rational human being, she proceeds to tell her kid to go for a swim, and that if any of us try to get him out, that he would start screaming as loud as he can. Of course, we couldn't just let the kid swim in the middle of a thunderstorm, so we had my manager call the supervisor, and the other coworker and I went to go convince the kid to get out of the pool. It was raining, there was thunder, and this kid was just splashing away. We told him that he needed to get out of the pool because it wasn't safe. But the second I stepped into the water, the kid let out the most ear-piercing scream I'd ever heard. Then the entitled Karen ran over and started screaming, "She's hitting my son! Someone help!" She then tried to physically pull me out of the pool. Unfortunately for her, my supervisor had just arrived and he was already on the phone with the police. She was screaming, the kid was screaming, and I was fuming. I wanted to smack this lady so bad, but I restrained myself. My supervisor came over and told both of them that they needed to leave, or they would be escorted out by the police. Surprise, surprise, the Karen wasn't having it. So the police got there about 5 minutes later, escorted her off of the pool property, and she was banned from ever coming to the pool ever again. About 2 weeks later though, she ended up trying to come back to the pool again with her son. She came in, ignored the sign-in sheet, and just told her kid to get in the pool. We called the cops and she was fined for trespassing. She left screaming with her screaming brat following behind her. She tried to start stuff online saying that we're apparently discriminating against her, but that was honestly the end of it. That incident made me stop lifeguarding altogether. $8 an hour was not nearly enough for me to have to deal with this kind of garbage. What an awful parent. She actively said to her kid, "Hey, go swim in the pool while there's a thunderstorm," just out of spite, and then threatened the lifeguards if they even tried to intervene. I mean, this lady should not have kids. I'm honestly surprised that protective services didn't get involved, because this is just super dangerous for her son. I mean, she just put him out there and said, "Okay, go swim around," as if this isn't some like life-threatening situation. But at the end of the day, the supervisor took care of it and that lady got banned. And I think everybody that goes to that pool people will be better off without that lady being around. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay for my family's vacation? I live with my wife and my 2 kids. My father passed away 3 years ago, and he left me 75% of his money and the business he had been running his entire life, and left my mom with the other 25%. Since then, my family has been acting weird towards me. I am known to be a giving person, and I donate about $1,000 to charity every month. I paid for 4 of my cousins' college funds, and one time my mom sat me down and told me that my aunt, who I wasn't really close with, is going to ask me for vacation money, which is expensive for where they wanted to go, and told me to just give her the money because she is her favorite sister. I told her that she doesn't have the right to tell me what to do with my money, or that I should just hand it out to someone that I don't even know that well. Fast forward to 3 weeks ago in a family gathering. My sister-in-law's fiance told me that his calculations for the engagement ring, the house, and the honeymoon were off, and that he can't afford the house and has to downgrade to a smaller house, and he was asking me how to tell his fiance all of this. So I told him not to think about it, and I bought them the house that they wanted and told him to just save his money. 4 days ago in their wedding, my family decided they wanted to all go to this fancy hotel and decided that I'm going to be the one to pay for it. All of this without telling me a single word. 2 days later, they broke the news to me and demanded that I will be paying because I have loads of money and I can easily afford it. At this point, I just basically told them that I am not their sugar daddy, and I started yelling that I am not responsible for your financial decisions. And after that, I just took my kids and I left immediately without saying goodbye or anything like that. I recently got a call from my mom saying that I'm apparently selfish for not being thankful for the amount of money I have. So I just hung up and blocked them all. So again, I asked the question, am I the jerk for not paying for everything in my family's life? This story is the living embodiment of every fear I have towards winning the lottery or somehow inheriting this great, massive amount of money, because everybody around you is going to change. Suddenly, aunts, uncles, nephews, cousins, all these people you never had anything to do with are going to be stepping into your life demanding some piece of the pie. So I have a lot of sympathy for this person for inheriting all this money from their passed away father. But I don't think for a second you're the jerk for deciding how and where you spend that money. That money is yours to use as you please. It's not a piggy bank for everybody to dip their hands into. It sounds like this person got a lot of money out of this too, because they're able to spend quite a bit of money based on what they're describing. But that doesn't mean that you have to pay for every little thing that comes up in someone's life. Like honestly, how obnoxious would that be? So I totally understand where this person's coming from, where they are at their wit's end and they decide that I gotta block these people out of my life, otherwise I'm gonna go crazy. So no, you're not the jerk, but I really do hope you find some solution to your problems and that you're able to have some semblance of a relationship with your family without them constantly trying to reach their hand into your pocket just for a little bit of cash. My boyfriend is an extreme nihilist and it's wearing me down. My boyfriend and I have been together for 1.5 years now, and generally things are great. We both have our fair share of baggage, but are good at communicating with each other to work through any issues arising from them. However, there's one thing that just keeps regularly coming up and causing issues. It's a weird one. It's his extreme nihilistic and pessimistic attitude, where he believes that humans are a plague on the earth, so we should all just be wiped out. He keeps saying he wants Putin to nuke the whole planet, and he's currently feeling really disappointed that it's not happened yet. I am also a nihilist, but with a much more cheerful take on it. My belief is that nothing matters, and so we should just enjoy the time we have. Try and take everything we can, take joy in little things, and let everyone else do the same without judgment. In contrast, his take on this is that nothing matters, and so what's the point in being alive? Every time we come across something to do with Russia, a news story about an awful crime, or a story about some celebrity, he gets really riled up and rants about how we all should just be wiped out, or if not, maybe he should just be unalived himself and get it over with. These comments also come out of nowhere without anyone prompting him to say that. Obviously, this is really upsetting me, and I always try to be empathetic and tell him how much I love him, then try to point out all the good in the world. It just seems to be like water off a duck's back though, and the conversations are starting to take a toll on me mentally too. I encouraged him to get therapy, which he's currently on a waiting list for, but I just don't know how to cope with this in the meantime. He used to only have these conversations privately, but now he's having these rants publicly with his friends too, especially when he's under the influence, and his friends have started to take notice and are just as shocked shocked as I am when he does this. I've also tried to talk to him about this when he's not worked up, and all it does is ends up with him becoming angry about it or apologizing to me and saying that he'll stop, but it doesn't ever work. It's just such a weird topic that I just don't know how to approach in any way. I feel like he just doesn't understand that his viewpoint is extreme, and I don't know how to help him move away from that. It's really starting to wear me down. What should I do? It sounds like he's very depressed and he has a very negative worldview. I know people who are nihilistic, but this is a whole nother type of extreme. I think therapy can't come soon enough, but you need to make it very clear that this type of talk is scary for you and that it genuinely makes you very uncomfortable to hear this type of talk. I think if things still don't improve, you might need to consider whether or not you want to be in that type of relationship. I think you really could make it work. I think there are just some steps that he definitely needs to take in order to make this work. My girlfriend broke up with me, but still wants to be best friends and text and call all the time, and I don't know what to do about it. My ex-girlfriend and I were together for 3 years. Without going into much detail, we had the best relationship and everything was great, I thought. We would see each other every day and most weekends as we went to high school together. With high school being over, she is now going to university and I'm working full-time. My weekends are free and I have time to be with her, but she claims her weekends are filled with university and studying, meaning she can't hang out much. Long story short, she decided that we should break up as she didn't have time for me anymore. However, she still wants to be my best friend. She wants to text and call me every day. Also, she wants to try and hang out at least once a month, but as friends. As of yesterday, we hung out in person for the first time as being just friends. This was extremely hard for me as it didn't feel right, and I felt super restricted in what I could and couldn't do and what I could and could not say as we were just friends now. I don't know if this is something I can get used to, especially because I felt super upset and heartbroken the whole time I was with her. It feels I'm being constantly reminded that we aren't together anymore. It hurts bad knowing that we are only friends now and things aren't going to be the same as they once were. It's always on my mind, especially because she texts and calls me every day. I've explained how I felt to her, but she says it will be easier over time and we should just keep being best friends because she wants me in my life and can't lose me apparently. I don't know what to do. I feel stuck, but also I want her in my life, but it also hurts as well. What should I do? It sounds like this is a one-sided breakup, and I don't think it's super healthy for them to try and stick it out and still be best friends and text each other and call each other all the time. Like they were in a relationship together for 3 years, and suddenly she just wants to break it off because she's going to university and she still wants to be friends. Like if this were me, I would definitely want some space away from this situation. It's not fair to put yourself through something like this if it's not something you're ready to do. And I can understand where this guy is coming from, where he's like, well, wait a second, we were in a relationship texting and calling all the time, but suddenly because there's some distance, we can't then continue the relationship by texting and calling all the time. And now we've broken up and you still want to text and call all the time, but we're not a couple. If I was in his shoes, I could definitely see where he's coming from. So in my opinion, I think maybe scaling things back and maybe making her more of an acquaintance and slowly accepting that you're not going to be with her anymore might be your best course of action. Because honestly, she does not get to dump you and then still try to keep you around on her terms. He probably would be better off and just break this off and look for someone else who really will care for him. Today, I messed up by trying to get my girlfriend to play video games with me, only to then find out she's been cheating on me. I have been dating my girlfriend for just about 3 years now. We met in spring of 2019 and moved in with each other in December of that year, right before the pandemic. Then, in the winter of 2021, she decided to break up with me, saying that she just didn't feel like she was in love with me anymore. We had definitely been struggling a bit and fighting over stupid stuff, and had partially opened up our relationship. I was hit pretty hard with this and moved in with a buddy of mine while trying to juggle split custody of our puppy. I never really got over her and was really sad, to be honest. Trying to win her back, begging for another chance. I tried to move on, but we started talking again and things felt like they were going really good. So we decided to give things another try. This was right about after Valentine's Day, and we agreed to be exclusive again in late February, early March. We had been attending couples therapy, and one thing that was suggested was trying to find mutually enjoyable activities, or to try to get into each other's hobbies. I've always been an avid PC gamer, and a couple of weeks ago, my girlfriend asked about wanting to play games with me. This made me super excited, and I started talking about building a computer for her. But after some thought, I decided I would build a new computer for myself and give her my old computer. The parts showed up throughout the week before. I built my new computer last week, and we had talked about getting her set up and started playing with me yesterday, which also so happened to be on my birthday. We were planning to go to my parents' house for dinner in the early afternoon, and the plan was to get things set up in the morning so that once we got back from dinner, we could jump right into playing. We had talked about a few games to play, and we're setting up to play some World of Warcraft. My girlfriend had gone out running, come back, and hopped
popped into the shower. So while she was showering, I jumped in and tried to get her signed in. Part of this process involved putting in her phone number and receiving a verification code. Now, I had been a bit insecure after the breakup and getting back together, so after putting in the verification code, I just scanned her other text messages, and right there at the top was the text message I didn't want to see. It said something along the lines of, "If you're going to stop talking to me, just let me know." And while I know I shouldn't have, being insecure, I opened the conversation. It was some dirty text messages, if you know what I mean, going all the way back till mid-April, when this guy had gotten a new phone number and sent her a new text message. It was mostly initiated from his side, but there was also some times that she had initiated the conversation. I'll spare you the details, but these conversations were not PG, if you know what I mean. At this point, my head was ringing, my hands were shaking, because I didn't know how to react to this information. We are about an hour and a half from going over to my parents' house to celebrate my birthday with dinner. I confronted her and she said that she liked the attention. She has always had a thing for having a sugar daddy and has been fairly open about that, which has always caused me a bit of insecurity. Not like she always brought it up, but it was something we talked about when we were in a more casual, beginning stage of dating. And then I just always felt insecure because I make okay money, but nothing great. And I'm not a silver fox or anything. She told me that she had decided that she was going to pour all of her attention into our relationship at the beginning of the month and had decided to cut this other guy off. At this point, I asked to have full access to her phone for a little bit so that I could look through everything, and she agreed. I found another similar text conversation, this one a bit older, with someone else she had worked with, another similar sugar daddy type of person. Then I went to some other apps like her Twitter, where I found she had sent pictures of her body to a couple of guys as well, if you know what I mean. At this point, I was starting to feel sick, so I gave her phone back to her. She wanted to talk, so we talked for a little bit, with her promising, of course, that it was all over and behind her, stating that she had rededicated herself to me and just us. She said she would do anything to prove to me that I would never have to worry about anything like this happening again. She asked to go over to my parents' house with me, and I obliged, as I didn't know what else to do. We went over to my parents' house and we had a nice dinner. And then my family has a cute tradition where when we are celebrating someone's birthday or some kind of holiday, we take turns going around the table saying something we love and appreciate about the person we are celebrating. When my dad spoke his part, he complimented us both as a power couple, and I just couldn't stop myself from crying. I was crying as everyone spoke their part, so it wasn't too telling, but I just felt horrible. We went back home and just spent the afternoon sleeping in the bedroom. She fell asleep on the couch, and I went back and looked at her phone, and she had deleted the text conversations and messaged her best friend about how horrible she felt. I haven't talked to anyone about this yet because part of me wants to work through it, and I worry that if I told anyone, like my family, they would never let me work through it alone, or if I stayed with her, they would judge her for the rest of her life. I have therapy later this week where I'm going to discuss these issues, but I just don't know what to do in the meantime. What should I do? This is a crazy situation to be in because it sounds like this lady has clearly been getting around to a lot of other guys, and her interest is in having a sugar daddy, which is basically having someone who will take care of her every need and give her money for whatever she needs, and that would basically be that. I would understand if this was like a one-off situation where she was messaging this one guy, but from the sounds of it, she's been messaging and sending pictures to a lot of guys recently, and a part of me really kind of wants to believe that she is rededicated to this relationship specifically, and I think there is some evidence of that with her messaging her friends saying how she feels so bad and terrible about the situation they're in, but at the end of the day, this is super sketchy. I'm not sure if I would personally want to be with someone who is so easily led away to go be with another guy. That's a pretty toxic situation to be stuck in, and the fact that you now know about this by having to look through her phone, which I'm not really a fan of to be honest, is more than enough proof that she's willing to hide this type of behavior from you behind your back. And sure, you probably could make this work, but honestly, I just don't see that happening, because who's to say you aren't the boyfriend that she's hiding from somebody else? It really makes you think where her loyalty actually is. So in my opinion, I think it might be time to start looking at another relationship because you can do so much better than this. Today I messed up by thinking that my neighbor had passed away. In order to set up this story, you need to know that the section of my building that I live in has some seriously long hallways. Think like The Shining. Between my unit and the elevator, which is a good 100 meters or so away, there are approximately 20 units. Given that this is a large building with relatively small units, we all frequently can smell a large variety of smells coming from one another's units. I feel like this is super common in most buildings. Other than the first few months of my pregnancy, this has never bothered me because I have a pretty strong stomach and can handle some pretty bad smells, to be honest. Now this is where I messed up. My husband and I gathered up the baby and the dog and were heading out for an afternoon walk. Because we had the stroller, we had to take the elevator. Partway down the hall, we started to smell something really foul. This isn't that surprising given that we have had a few incidents with people on our floor leaving garbage on the floor of the shoot room. But as we kept walking, it didn't smell like garbage, and it was starting to smell incredibly strong, but only getting stronger. The smell was so foul, unfamiliar, and overpowering that we were straight up worried someone in one of the units had passed away and was rotting on the floor. I ended up gagging, it was so bad. Obviously, we were both concerned and made sure to tell the front desk on our way out that, hey, there's a crazy smell on our floor and we think that somebody passed away. He naturally seemed alarmed and assured us he would check it out. We found out later that evening that when the front desk went to check out the smell, he also almost threw up. When he found the right unit, it turns out that they were cooking fish, which none of us could believe because it smelled nothing like fish and everything like a rotting corpse. He told us that he advised those people in that unit not to eat whatever they were prepping because it didn't smell right and you might get sick, and that the smell was so bad that it was concerning the neighbors and him. So thankfully, our neighbor was still alive, and we didn't have to worry that something more serious was going on. That's actually really funny because I'm sure the neighbors had no idea that they were eating something so bad. Like, you ever have a food that you're so accustomed to it smelling like garbage that you eventually go nose blind to it and you just can't smell how bad it is, but you're so used to it that you're like, yeah, this is fantastic. That's probably what was going on here. Thankfully though, the neighbors were still alive, and the only thing anyone had to worry about was some fish that definitely did not smell right. My psychotic mother spat in my face during an argument, and weirdly enough, I could not be happier that this happened. I became the recipient of my mother's abuse for daring to ask her to let go of my sister's hair, who recently moved into this monster's house. As she was attacking my sister, she spat at me. Why would she do this? Because my request was seen as taking sides with my sister and that I was going against her. Her entitlement and arrogance would make God humble enough to bow down to her. The reason why I am glad that she spat at me is because for once in my life, I am no longer consumed by guilt, resentment, and empathy towards her. She is now nothing to me. For years, she beat us savagely, but what bothered me the most wasn't the physical beating. It was the emotional turmoil that followed suit. I'd feel an intense, white-hot hatred for her, which was then amplified by guilt for despising her, and finally being overwhelmed by empathy for her aging, declining health and loneliness. And by the way, this loneliness was caused by her toxic behavior that prompted the rest of the family to abandon her. But alas, no more. I am free from this emotional prison that I locked myself in due to her. For the first time in 28 years, I can sleep without caring about how she feels. But this is what baffles me the most about all of this. Why didn't I reach this point 8 years ago when I became a recluse in her house as I hid due to a health issue and endured daily abuse from her? I mean, what changed? All those days and nights, she would barge into my room and screech like a wounded hyena, completely ignoring the blood-stained sheets I'm laying on from scratching relentlessly, trying to rip eczema-ridden skin off of my sleep-deprived state. Once she would leave, I'd still feel consumed by guilt and empathy for her. I'd wage an internal war of conflicting emotions that would only increase the strength I'd use to dig my nails into my skin to relieve this supposed itching. She projected her saliva like a snake spews its venom on its victim, but unlike the snake, which would kill its prey, her venom acted like an antidote to the poison I had within me. For some reason, instead of feeling angry when she spat at me, I instead felt relief. For once in my life, I'm actually unburdened from hatred and feeling optimistic about the future. I have fully come to terms with what she is, and the cage I locked myself in no longer restricts me. I could cry tears of joy right now. It's rather difficult to articulate exactly what I mean, and the best example as a comparison I can use to illustrate this is the sense of relief you'd get after struggling with a difficult math question that just happens to be on an exam and discovering the answer at the last possible minute. I sleep so much better now. I know she's miserable, but I just don't care anymore. No longer is that my concern, and I am content. She admitted to me once in a shockingly candid fashion, something that still stuns me to this day. A while back, she went on a long talk about God granted mothers immense rights, and that a son is to be patient and dutiful, and all this other stuff. I then asked hesitantly if this God that she claims to love saw her verbally abusive towards me, as well as assault me and disrespect me, what would he say? Her response, and I kid you not, was, was, God would say nothing. He'd be angry at you. I can't help being angry. It's not my fault. It's a condition. No doubt, my mother is mentally ill. She's been bestowed with borderline personality disorder, as well as some other type of condition that apparently God gave her, who is also the same God that is giving her immunity from judgment. But deep down, she's a rotten creature with a bad soul, a genuinely unpleasant human being, even without the disorders that she's claiming, both real and fake. Why has it taken so long for me to accept this and move on? It took me almost 30 years to reach this point, to come to terms with what she really is. I still have many challenges in my life, but they don't seem as overwhelming as they once did, ever since this moment of revelation about my mother. Finally, I have entered manhood, and to be honest, it's better late than never. This guy has a crazy upbringing, and I really feel bad for what they've had to endure their entire life. And also, fun fact, the woman that he's describing as a sister that had her hair grabbed by her mother, she's 30 years old. This mom is still being abusive to her kids all these years later. You would expect this stuff to happen when they were younger, and then when they grow up, these kids are able to get out from underneath them. But this mom still had her claws in her kid's life. It's so good that this person has finally seen through what their mom really is. And although it's a really disgusting way to find out, at the end of the day though, he can finally move forward with his life without feeling any kind of guilt towards his mom, who clearly is not a good person and does not care about him or his siblings. It's a very sad state of affairs, but at least he's come to this conclusion and he can literally move forward without any guilt or any type of concern about the situation. And that might be the best gift he could ever receive. Today I messed up by forgetting I had no sense of smell for 3 months. Several months ago, I went on a road trip to a major national park with my family. Part of our plan was to pack food we could eat on the trip to help limit our expenses. As I was preparing for the trip, I decided to make sandwiches, delicious cold meat sandwiches. Well, when I got all the food home from the grocery store and began to prepare the food, the meat was nowhere to be found. Great, I thought. I left the meat sitting in the bag at the cash register. I went back to the store, it was gone. I had to buy it all over again. This is a pretty routine occurrence in my life. I'm pretty absent-minded. It happens. No big deal. We went on our trip using a family member's vehicle. We had fun. We enjoyed my sandwiches. We had memories. It was honestly a blast. Fast forward to last week. My car needs a little work. There's a rattle, so I was concerned. It took 3 weeks to get my car in to be seen by the dealer. After getting my car in and having it inspected, I got the call from the dealer with all the things they recommended that I needed to be done. This time, there was a new one in the mix. They said, "Sir, have you noticed your car has started to develop an odor?" I said, "Well, this is awkward. No, I haven't really, but that's not unusual. I don't have a sense of smell currently." In reality, I do have one, but it's extremely weak. It's weak enough that I don't trust myself to smell a gas leak. I get an occasional sensation of odors, but often struggle to reliably describe what I just smelled to other people. For example, I once told someone that Cinnamon Toast Crunch smelled like steamed broccoli. "Well, we can try to sanitize your AC and heating system to see if that helps," he told me. I ended up weighing the cost of the recommended maintenance and repairs and went with their suggestions. It wasn't priced beyond my ability to pay, and I had noticed it smelled a little musty a time or two. I just assumed the infrequent use it had seen during the pandemic was to blame. They did the work, and I've been driving it around this past week with no issues or further thought. Fast forward to today. I went to the grocery store, I buy all the stuff I need, and head home with all of my purchases. I got home and made one final trip to get the last bag from the trunk. I pick it up and realize something's wrong. It just looks really off. This isn't what the bags from the store look like. This bag feels wrong too. I didn't buy anything today that should be sloshed around in the bag. Suddenly, all of March, April, and May are replaying themselves in my mind. And that's when I came to the realization. I never checked the trunk after I lost the bag of cold meats 2 months ago. I opened the bag and immediately confirmed what I feared. I've been driving around with 2.5 months of liquefied, rotting meat in a bag in the trunk of my car. My car didn't smell musty. It smelled like death. The employees at the dealership must have had quite the discussion about me once I left. Needless to say, I threw it away and made sure there was nothing else rotting in the back of my trunk. I've done something similar to this, but with eggs, and let me tell you, that was a nightmare to clean up. There's nothing worse than going to the grocery store and then realizing that you might have forgot something at the grocery store. You spend all this time and all this money getting these overpriced groceries, and then when you find out you missed something, it's like you get punched in the face. But this guy didn't forget anything, he just forgot to get it out of his trunk after he bought it, 2 months later.
bitter. I can only imagine what that must have smelled like, and honestly, it makes me nauseous. So hopefully next time you can be a little bit more careful, because it sounds like your sense of smell is not very reliable. I'm so tired of feeling used by those around me, and I don't know what to do. I'm very lucky to have a lot of great people in my life. I've got a fantastic wife, a lot of great friends, and a number of other people that I see a few times throughout the year and stay in touch with online. There's always reminders that I have at least some importance to people, but that's kind of the problem. It seems that my importance in people's lives usually comes down to whether or not someone can use me for something or not. It seems to be all about what can I do for someone else. People always tend to need all sorts of things from me. Someone to vent to, a ride to the airport, making a connection with someone else, all sorts of things. I am almost always happy to help because it does me some good to be able to, and it's a nice reminder that I have some relevance and meaning to others. But after a while, it can just get so exhausting once I realize it's a one-way street. There's really nothing in particular that I need from anyone, but it would be nice to have things repaid for me and for this to be a two-way street kind of thing. People seem to not really have the time to listen to me when I have something on my mind. I really wish I could even talk to someone about this issue in person instead of online, but I really don't know who would listen. My wife has always told me she's bad at giving advice, and she tends to tell me that I'm just inside my own head. I hate to bother her, so I don't really push it. It would also be nice if every once in a while someone repaid the kindness that I try to give to other people. It doesn't have to be anything drastic. Just message me to ask me how I'm doing, buy me a drink while we're out, invite me over and take care of things. Anything where I just don't feel like a resource instead of a person to people. Does anyone have any advice for this? I'm really afraid to voice these concerns too much because I don't want to seem whiny or needy. What should I do? It sounds like you need to set some very clear boundaries, in my honest opinion. Like, clearly you're not communicating with people that, hey, this is what I want. And it also kind of seems, based on what you describe, that you're not really telling people like, hey, I feel like I'm being used by you people. And the thing about it is, in my opinion, because I've kind of run into this too, if people get offended by you setting boundaries, then they're not really a good friend anyways. The odds of someone just coming out of nowhere, out of the blue, and asking you how your day was, or in some way mysteriously and suddenly being involved in your life in the way that you're describing, is probably not going to happen unless you communicate that. I think also, and this is just from my perspective, it seems like you're kind of letting people just tell you what to do and like boss you around a little bit. What would happen if you were just less available to these people who only use you as a resource? I mean, sure, it's great to feel involved and to help people out when they need help, but being available for everybody's issues all the time at any point just doesn't seem healthy to me. And this is coming from a perpetual people pleaser too, by the way. So it might do you some good to say no once in a while and choose to take care of yourself and your own needs for once. Because if you don't take care of yourself, nobody will. My brother's YouTube channel is ruining my life. So my brother is such a big bully and has always believed that he is better than me. He's also extremely spoiled, along with my older demon siblings. He loves calling me nicknames and overall just being really mean to me because I'm a ginger. He also loves pranking me with annoying tricks. And of course, my loving parents don't do anything to help. Anyways, my brother is very lazy. He wants money now and he wants it easily. He claims he wants to be an engineer, so my parents are paying for his tuition, but he does not take it seriously and would much rather spend his time watching television than study. So one night, he said he was going to drop out of school and become a YouTuber. My parents were against this, but they gave him a chance, saying he can move in with them for a year, and if he makes a certain amount of money, he can go ahead and become a YouTuber. It's also important to note that my brother has not uploaded anything, so he doesn't have a YouTube channel with any subscribers or anything. And the worst part about this is that my brother's old room was transformed into storage, and now my parents are saying that he can move in and live in my room with me. Here is where his entitlement shines through. He keeps asking my parents, myself, and my sibling for money of any amount just so we can try and help fund his projects. And yet, it has been 3 months and he's still not uploaded or posted anything. He then started to try and get serious and started actually making videos. But that was a blessing and a curse for everybody because he started making prank videos and challenge videos. This all proved to be torturous for all of us. I was told to help him in any way that I could, and that meant being in his videos. He used this as an excuse to make me do really weird challenges. One example was that for 24 hours, I couldn't say no to any challenge, and I said, no way. I'm not going to do whatever he says and just do some stupid video just because he wants me me to. And all the challenges resulted in me being very embarrassed or humiliated in some way. It was all becoming super obnoxious. I even had to be extra careful and make sure he fell asleep before I did because I didn't want him to mess with me. He was notorious for doing this and treating his family like garbage. Thankfully, he eventually went back to college, but as you could probably guess, he dropped out completely. And now he just does odd jobs and has completely given up on his education, as well as trying to be a YouTuber. That must have been super annoying to put up with, no lie. To have a sibling who's literally living in the same room as you, trying to do prank videos on you specifically and your other members of your family, would have been obnoxious, let alone for the first 3 weeks. And it's so strange that the parents would allow their son to stop what he's doing for a year to try and be a YouTuber. Like, why would you sacrifice your studies at university just so you could try to be a YouTuber? Why don't you try and do both at the same time? Do your studies during the day and then do your YouTube channel at night. It's totally possible. I'm very surprised that the parents decided to allow that to happen. Like, it'd be different if he had a big YouTube channel and he was trying to focus on it because he knew there was going to be some kind of potential. But just dropping out of school for a year just to do YouTube when you don't have anything going seems like a really big risk. But thankfully, it looks like the YouTube days are over for this guy, and his brother can now sleep easy, knowing that his other brother is not going to try and mess with him in his sleep. Today, I messed up by switching seats on an airplane just so I could look out the window, only to then lose my phone on the plane and having to leave it in Istanbul, Turkey. I've never been more upset. Here's what happened. So I was on this Turkish Airlines with a connecting flight to Istanbul, Turkey, with the final destination being Sofia, Bulgaria. My seat was located in the middle of the plane with a clear line of sight out of the plane since no one was seated beside the window near me. I was on business class, which meant I was almost guaranteed a yes whenever I asked a flight attendant if it was okay to switch seats. This story started with the plane on its final descent approaching the airport. I think the plane was waiting for its designated time to land because it circled around Istanbul several times before proceeding to the airport. Thanks to that, I saw this amazing view of the other cities below, with some of its landmarks visible to me despite my distance from the window. Wanting to get a clear look, plus take some good photos, I transferred to the window seat, leaving my book, my headphones, my smartphone, and other things in my original seat side table. I had fun snapping up some shots, blissfully unaware of what was going to happen to me next, which would completely change the trajectory of my entire trip. After some time, the plane made its way to the outskirts of Istanbul, where the airport was located. The plane was about to land, so I couldn't go back to my seat. Not that I really wanted to, since I wanted to see the airport when we landed. I was admiring how spacious and organized Istanbul International Airport was from my window, when suddenly the plane wheels hit the runway. Inertia took over. My unsecured things assumed that they were still flying and hit the floor, with some of them spilling into the aisle. The thump from their impact with the floor was very loud. I'm sure that everyone in the business class cabin heard it, maybe even the crew. All I could think at that moment was to rush back and clean up the mess, but I couldn't as the fasten your seatbelt sign was still on. But whatever, right? It's just something embarrassing, it's nothing serious, I thought. Oh, how wrong I was. Once the plane was safely docked, I immediately took off my seatbelt and swiftly gathered my stuff from the cabin floor. Thankfully, the other people were busy getting their stuff from the overhead compartments to notice me grubbing around on the floor. After some time, I managed to collect my stuff and put them all on my seat. One by one, I started accounting for my stuff. Headphones, check. Book, check. Airplane goodies, check. I then started to realize that I was missing my most valuable possession, my smartphone. I was like, probably it's just in my pocket. Nope, it wasn't there. Maybe it's in my satchel bag. Nope, wasn't there too. I slowly started to dread the possibility that it might have gone under the seats. You see, this plane's business class seats were built really stupidly. These seats had a tiny bit of space between them and the floor, and it was so small that even the tiniest of fingers cannot fit through the gap. But it was just wide enough that a thin smartphone would slide right in. This meant that no matter how eager and desperate I was to check for my phone under the surrounding seats, I couldn't get it without the help of the aircraft technician. Not wanting to be seen as a fool, I furiously stuck my fingers under the seat, hoping that my phone didn't slide in far enough. This continued for a while until almost all the passengers were gone from the plane, leaving me, my very upset girlfriend, and my friends alone in the cabin. I had no choice. I finally asked the nearest flight attendant for help. Initially, she was very accommodating, but a little concerned, and started helping me look for my phone under the seats. She quickly realized that what we were doing was futile, and asked the head attendant to get a technician team to help us with the search. My seat was getting crowded
spread around by the plane's crew, some of which asked their colleague about the incident. It wasn't long before I heard head sighs and tongue clicks from the crew, who were apparently convinced that my stupidity led to them being detained in the plane with us. Somehow, it was protocol for them to not leave the plane before the last passenger did. The technicians quickly got to work, and I had the expectation that we'd be out of the plane soon. Again, I was so wrong. Once my seat got completely dismantled by the technicians without any sign of my phone, the plane crew promptly left the scene without any word, leaving what I think was the head of the ground crew with me and my group. The minutes slowly turned into an hour. After what seemed like an eternity, the ground crew head sent us off the plane, telling my girlfriend, not me, in a very strict tone that they'll leave the phone with their lost and found office after they found it. To make things worse, he never gave us directions to the lost and found office. Since this was a connecting flight, I only had 6 hours, basically my entire layover time, to find this office. Oh well, that should be ample time to retrieve my phone and enjoy the business lounge, right? Again, for the third time, I was completely wrong. When will I catch on? I had no choice but to stick closely to my girlfriend and my friends or risk getting lost. I decided to wait for 3 more hours before going to the lost and found desk, just in case they took longer to find my phone. The business lounge was really nice. It served hot, delicious food cooked by professional chefs. It had shelves of different variety of drinks. It was really a cool place to be and to hang out. Unfortunately, it took away precious time that I could have used to find the lost and found office. In an airport as huge and hostile as Istanbul International Airport, even 3 hours is not enough to find a small corner office. Thankfully, it only took me 30 minutes to find the airport's lost and found office. It was a bummer though when I was informed that in my case, I needed to find the Turkish Airlines lost and found office. There were no signs whatsoever to this particular office. I asked for help from the nearest Turkish Airlines booth. They told me it was near the passport control gates. The corridor where the passport control gates were had a lot of booths and offices, but I didn't find the lost and found office there. I went back to Turkish Airlines booth to clarify if they gave me the exact location. They told me it was beside the passport control gates. I tried asking each booth beside the passport control gates just in case they were the lost and found office. And that's when I find out from a security guard near the passport control queues that the office was behind the gates, and I had to pass through passport control so that I could get it. Long story short, I was completely screwed. I didn't have the proper documents to pass passport control. I only had a Bulgarian visa, which the guard said wasn't enough to let me through. I made a last-ditch attempt to get someone from the Turkish Airlines booth to get the phone for me, but they weren't considerate enough to even bother and refused to help. Since it was almost time for the flight, I had no choice but to abandon my search for the lost and found office. I felt so depressed on our way to our next flight. I've never lost a phone or something valuable like that before this event. When we were boarding the plane to our next destination, I had this faint hope that someone from the lost and found office was waiting there to return my phone. It didn't take long for that hope to fade away, roughly 30 minutes after boarding. The plane took off, leaving Istanbul Airport, and my phone behind to never see me again. I do kind of feel bad for this original poster, but at the end of the day, this is kind of your own fault. I mean, how many times do they say you need to tuck your belongings and loose items in your pockets or in the pocket in front of you? They say it so many times when you're flying. It's like the first thing you need to consider. So I hope the pictures out the window were worth it, because honestly, it costs you a smartphone. An entitled Karen steals my tablet while I'm in the bathroom, and I catch her red-handed using a tracking device leading right to her purse. I work at a car dealership as a receptionist, one of my duties being greeting customers when they enter. I am a professional artist on the side, and I've been busy with some commissions lately. So since it's not busy at a car dealership, I started working on my tablet. It's an older version, and I'm working on getting an upgrade, but I currently can't afford to do so. So I live with it despite the battery life being really short, and I have to basically keep it plugged in at all times. But it does the job. During my lunch break, I was in the waiting room area doing more work when a kid, a little girl no older than 4 years old, came up and watched me work. This happens a lot when I draw in public, and usually the kids just ask a lot of questions. But this little girl was very quiet and just looked on in amazement, so I just let her be. Her mother, the entitled crazy Karen in this story, was nearby at a salesman's desk working on purchasing a new car, which is a long and no doubt boring process.
The salesman working with her walked away, which at my dealership they do every so often to retrieve paperwork, talk to the sales or finance managers, etc. She looks over at me and her kid and asks, "What are you looking at?" Her kid points at the screen and says, "She's painting puppies." I was currently working on Twitch emotes of a streamer's dog. I sort of show my screen to the entitled Karen, and she then asks her kid if she wants to draw, which the girl excitedly said yes. I expected this entitled Karen to pull out a paper and pencils, or at least ask if I can get some for her too, but she just looked at me expectingly. When I realized she was waiting for me to hand her my tablet, I said, "Oh, she can't use mine, but I can get her a notepad and some pens," but apparently that wasn't good enough. This entitled Karen sighs and just says, "Just let her draw a little bit. I'm almost done here anyway," which I knew for a fact wasn't true. They were waiting on a bank approval for a loan, which can take anywhere between 5 to 30 minutes. And even then, there's still so much more paperwork that she needs to do. I start to explain that this is part of my side work, and she just scoffs, saying I'm just doodling puppies, and that it was selfish that I wouldn't let her daughter doodle on my device. This poor little girl was just looking at her hands, looking quite embarrassed. I then pretended that my lunch was over and got up to spend the rest of my lunch at my desk. I couldn't see her behind a huge truck on display, but I can hear her grumble to her little daughter about who knows what. Whatever. I'll just pretend like I didn't hear anything so I don't mess up this sale for my coworker. Sometime later, nature called me and I got up to use the bathroom. I left my iPad on my seat so it will stay plugged in and put a notepad over it to try and cover it up somehow. My desk is a wide crescent shape with no drawers to keep my things safe, so this was the best I could do to somewhat hide it. I was in the restroom for no longer than 3 minutes, but when I got back, only my charger remained. My tablet and the digital pencil I was using to draw were gone. I looked over to the lady, who had a large purse suspiciously in her lap now, instead of on the floor beside her chair like it was before. I was panicked because a lot of my work was on that tablet that I needed. I went to my sales manager and told him the situation. He told me he would take care of it, but to be patient for now. I went back to my desk full of anxiety and my stomach was doing backflips. My sales manager went to the desk where the entitled Karen was working out the deal for her car. They are far enough that I can hear their voices but not pinpoint what they're saying. But I did hear her eventually yell, "How dare you? I would never steal. Do you want to lose your sale?" I immediately got up and went behind the entitled Karen so my sales manager could see me but she couldn't. He tells her that he understands, but my tablet just went missing and he wants to make sure no one currently in the building has it. That's when I remembered the tracking application I have on my tablet. My tablet was connected to the dealer's Wi-Fi, so I pulled out my phone and pressed play sound on my tablet. Her purse started making a noise. She tried to play it off as if it's her ring phone, and my sales manager stared at her as if daring her to answer it. The thing is, with this feature on this app, if I keep pressing the button, it will keep making noise. I made my presence known and told her to give me back my tablet. That's when she stopped playing dumb and just said, "Just let my little girl have it. Her birthday's coming up and I can't afford a present for her since I'm getting this car." My sales manager said he was happy to cancel the deal so she can instead buy a gift for her child, and also that she better return this tablet or he's gonna call the police. She practically threw my tablet at me. Where it hit me in the gut, took the little girl from the waiting room and left. The poor thing looked at me with the most apologetic look on her face before leaving with her entitled, crazy Karen of a mother. How on earth can someone possibly do this to another human being and think they're gonna get away with it? I mean, how crazy can you possibly be? How did they think this was gonna go? Did they really think they were gonna get away with this? I mean, it couldn't have been more obvious that this lady wanted to get this tablet just so she could shove it in her daughter's face. I mean, how ridiculous can you get? Good on the sales manager for sticking up for the coworker, and it's good to see that justice was served and they were able to get their tablet back. This next one came from the Am I the Jerk podcast subreddit. Check the links in the description if you'd like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for asking for a new phone from my relatives overseas? Okay, so hear me out. I sounded a bit spoiled, but trust me, I am not. I'm around 17 or 18 at the time, and I was in college and living with my parents. My parents are poor, so my relatives overseas are the ones providing for my education. Those people are sustaining my education, helping me with miscellaneous stuff in college by sending money, and honestly, I'm very thankful for all of that. One time, I was saving money to buy a phone or a PC because I really needed it for school. But just when I thought I had earned enough money to buy a phone, my parents will borrow some money and feed us with that money. Then after a few months, I will ask my mom to pay me back, but she will just reason her way out of it, saying, "You should not ask for the money back because that money ended up buying the food that we stuffed into our mouths.
I let that slide and started earning again. I was already planning on working, so my cousin and I applied for jobs so that we could earn some money. I'm personally not very good at interviews, so my cousin ended up landing the job, but I didn't make it. A year later at this point, I'm in my second year of college, and I nearly saved up enough money that I was able to build my first PC that I can use for research and play some old games. Then my relatives abroad decided that they hand us down their old phones because they got new ones, so they sent them our way. Here is the issue. What was handed to me is a phone with a broken screen. My cousin gets a good functioning one, and it looks so spotless and brand new. I was a little envious, but my dad told me to not worry, son. I know a place where they can get it repaired for cheap. So I gave my dad the money to have it repaired. I held back and promised myself not to envy a single bit of what they have since, they got a brand new one while I spent money on mine just to make it usable. Throughout the years, they always hand me down a broken phone and my cousin gets the new phone. And I started to develop this habit of brushing off the envy, telling myself that what I have is better since I always work hard to get it. A few years later, I managed to finish college and landed a job that is better than my cousin's. I was able to earn good money, but I can't use the money to buy a phone yet since I need to pay rent and other bills. The company provided a work PC in my place in order to be able to work from home, and my current phone is already flickering and old. I was desperate enough to ask for a new phone since instead of planning and saving, I immediately sent my aunt a message saying, "Hey, it's been a while. I hope you're in good health. How's grandma?" With another follow-up message saying, "I've been meaning to ask you for a while. Can I ask for a new phone? Not the top of the line one, just a new usable phone." Right after an hour, she sent me a reply saying, "You are being ungrateful. At least appreciate what was given to you." I was a little shocked because I never said I didn't appreciate her. In fact, I was thankful that I managed to graduate and land a good job because of her help. So I replied saying that I'm not being ungrateful and I appreciate your efforts, that I'm able to finish my studies. I just wanted a functioning phone, not an expensive one, just the one I can use for my work. Now here I am thinking I could get her sympathy just because I said I need it for work. And I know I kind of sounded petty at this point because I'm desperate, but in the end, she never replied to the conversation, even though I know she saw it because her message icon showed up showing that she had seen it. So some months have passed by. I bought myself a phone without relying on my aunt. I did mention that the phone is essential to my work since I use it to keep the contacts of my boss, my coworkers, and other work-related stuffs. And I even managed to earn enough money to buy a fridge at my apartment. I ended up replacing my old PC, I bought a bed, and basically I was able to piece my life together slowly but surely. Sometime during the summer, my cousin visited my place and wanted me to back him up with his application since he wanted to apply for a job at my workplace. But I told him that the company requires an applicant to at least have a bachelor's degree or to at least have a 4-year course college graduation of some kind. And when I told him this, I was honestly very grateful for my studies since I had to work my way through college while he spent his years working and not going to college. I'm not saying he wasted his life away. It is just still good that I built all these working experiences while I was younger. He then takes out his phone, and it was the latest model of a phone you could possibly get at the time. So I asked him, "Hey, where did you get that phone?" And he said to me, "My aunt gave it to me." And for a moment, I was a little angry, but again, I just brushed it off. He gave me his number and told me to inform him if there was any position that would open up that he could apply for. When I made it to my parents' house, my parents prepared food and warmly welcomed me in. My dad said a broken phone arrived in the mail from my aunt and an envelope with money with a letter stating that this was your last phone. Don't ever ask for anything from me ever again. It was all directed towards me. I used the money to get the phone repaired and I gave it to my younger brother. The letter doesn't bother me that much because I am financially stable with my job. It does, however, feel very painful to have my relative turn her back on me just because of a simple phone. I wasn't asking for anything top of the line or anything brand new. I just wanted a phone that I could use, a phone that is not broken, and I really don't think that was much to ask. So am I the jerk for asking this of my relatives overseas? I don't think you're the jerk for asking for that. Clearly you're in a situation where you're relying on family overseas to help take care of you. But at the end of the day, you did learn quite a bit. I think you learned a valuable lesson that at the end of the day, if you want something, it's going to feel so much better if you work for it as opposed to if you just ask for it. Like sure, there's instant gratification in just being handed something new that you're like, hey, this is mine now. But when I've worked hard and saved up the money to buy that thing that I've been looking at for so long, it feels absolutely tremendously awesome to finally have it in my hands and know that I worked worked my butt off just to get it. And also, this gives you so much more independence away from your aunt. You clearly have true colors shining through with this lady. You don't need her. You can still have her in your life, obviously, but when it comes to money, you have a stable job. You can do whatever you like with your money. So good for this person for finally graduating away from hand-me-downs and broken phones. Because now, at this point in their life, they can afford so much more, independent of what anyone else tries to give them. My best friend used me for their own benefit and is now spreading lies about me at work, and I don't know what to do about it. I became best friends with my coworker about a year ago. Now, she doesn't drive or have a license and lives about 40 minutes from me in total. So to help out, I've been giving her rides for quite a while now, and I'll even take her to some stores if she asks me. Here's the problem though. I have never gotten a collective of maybe $60 in gas money. I drive her home 1 to 3 times each week, and it takes quite a hit on my gas tank. Since gas prices have gone up, it costs me about $35 to $40 just to fill it up, and I only ask for $15, which is way less than what I should be asking for from her when I give her rides. Keep in mind, I live right next to my job, so I know it's not my own personal driving trips taking a hit on my gas. It is from taking my friend everywhere. Anytime I have asked for gas money, she tells me she'll send it to me when she gets home, but I never get the money even if I send a request. Or she will only pay for it if I happen to go to the gas station with her. I literally have to hunt her down for the money that I deserve, despite her constantly complaining about Uber prices and how much better it is to drive with me. And money is not an issue with this lady. She will spend hundreds of dollars on herself when she goes shopping, and this is a frequent occurrence for her. Recently at work, we were in a break room, and I mentioned she hadn't sent me the $15 yet for this paycheck. I asked $15 every paycheck, which is bi-weekly. She denies it and says that she did. I pulled up Apple Pay to the last time she paid me, and I also pulled up the calendar to show what day that was showing and that it was on our last paycheck before the current one. I showed it to her, and she still was denying even paying me. She kept trying to come up with reasons that made no sense just to not have to pay me. Eventually, I gave up and just dropped the topic and went on with our break. About 5 minutes later, she starts asking me what the amount is based off of, asking if it's based off of the amount of trips or whatever else I may be adding to the reason why she owes me $15. I explained my reasoning about gas money and everything else, and I broke it down systematically as to why I'm asking specifically for $15. I even explained that it would have to go up to $20 if I have to take her to more places than I usually do. And as I was about to explain to her that I feel like I have to hunt her down to get the money, she interrupts me and immediately gets defensive, saying, "It's not that I don't want to give you money, it's just that..." And then at that point, I cut her off and said, "I never said anything like that. It just feels like I have to hunt this money down just to get it from you." Then out of nowhere, her chair goes flying backwards, she slams on the table and storms out of the room. I go to one of my coworkers and tell her everything that's going on. I'm relatively close with her, and she has also had experience with giving this lady a ride home as well as trying to get gas money from her. So she completely understood where I'm coming from, and she gave me the solid advice of no longer giving her a ride home, saying that she needs to learn her lesson. Later on, my friend and I's shift ended, and I go to the break room to grab my stuff, and she's sitting at the table, I assume booking an Uber ride. As I was about to walk out, she calls my name and asked if I'm ever gonna say anything to her. I say, "No, you snapped on me, why would I want to talk to you?" She went on to deny ever snapping on me and instead called it walking out, which I denied. That's not walking out, that's snapping. She tried to bring the tears out, stating that I said something so hurtful to her. I told her I didn't want to do this, so I walked out. Now, instead of doing what you should do as a best friend and going to apologize for your faults and most likely giving gas money, instead she goes to take me off social media and completely ignore my existence for about a week. The first time she even says anything to me is when she gives me this really bad attitude over some boxes I needed to take care of at work. I eventually find out that a coworker no longer wants to work with her due to her constant complaining of me and constantly leaving the area to go talk about me to my manager. I also found out from my coworker that she was making up lies about me to make me seem like I was the bad guy. She tried saying that I was the one that hurt her, that I apparently snapped on her and walked out. Unfortunately, I'm not one of those people that can just let things go when somebody's talking badly about me, because I don't like people knowing lies about me when it's not true. And I know she's told a lot more people than just those few coworkers that I know of. I already hate hate my job as it is, and basically losing who was supposed to be my best friend and is now making my job even worse. But I can't go anywhere else because no one else is hiring me despite the applications that I'm putting out. I have even had to keep myself from rage texting her everything that I feel in regards to what she has done. But I know it's not going to give me the satisfaction that I would hope it would give me. The sad part is that she still gets rides from other people, and I really doubt she's giving them any gas money despite what happened. Regardless, this is a nasty situation and I'm not really sure how to move forward. I think maybe you don't realize it, but that lady was not your friend. She was using you for rides. Any reasonable person would pitch in and give you the $15 for gas, especially if you're driving 40 plus minutes just to pick them up and take them to work. Like, if that's not them taking advantage of you, I don't know what is. If she's really gonna act like this after you've asked her repeatedly, hey, give me my money for gas, then you really don't need that in your life. That former best friend is very childish and very ignorant. And if I were you, I would get HR involved tomorrow. You do not have to go to work and have someone gossip about you and treat you poorly and have to sit there and take it. That is workplace harassment. You don't have to put up with that for a second. And the fact that she's spreading false information about you and making up lies behind your back is a serious offense. You have rights as a worker and you absolutely don't have to take that. But regardless of what happens, regardless of if any kind of punishment goes her way, your best bet is to move forward without her because she was not a friend and she was only using you for rides. My wife is mad at me because I cried over a soccer match, but I didn't cry at our child being born. Yesterday, an important soccer match was played, which saw the team from my hometown victoriously involved, qualifying for the playoff final. Since we were out for dinner to celebrate my sister-in-law's birthday, in order to not be rude, I hid my mobile phone in the backpack under the table, and occasionally I would look at the results. I avoided cheering out loud out of respect for the whole table, but at the end of the game, the emotion was so big that I couldn't hold back the tears and I was moved. My wife immediately got mad and slapped me in the arm. She said that I didn't even cry when our child was born, and that I shouldn't be moved over a simple soccer game. I tried to explain to her that there's no point in comparing the two things, and that, of course, I love my family more than anything else. The reason why I cried is that I have been following this team since I was a kid, and my father and my grandfather used to take me to the stadium with them, so I was moved thinking that today they would be very proud of our team and of our city. In any case, my wife says that my behavior was very immature, and in her opinion, a family man should set a good example and not cry over these things. Also, I would like to take my children to the stadium to see the final, a historic event for our city that could be promoted to the highest category. But my wife absolutely doesn't want to because she says the kids are too small. Personally, I'm really annoyed by her attitude. I think there's nothing wrong with getting excited about these things, and that being moved by a match doesn't make me a bad family man. I think she should apologize and let me take the kids to the stadium. It would be a cool way of spending time with them, but I don't know how to talk to her about this without making her angry or making it worse. What should I do? I think honestly, both parties in this situation are not very good at communicating. On one hand, you are at a family dinner and you're celebrating someone's birthday. Now is not the time to have your phone out underneath the table watching the soccer match. I understand it's important. I understand that you really want to be there and root for your team, but in that very moment, it's time to focus on family. But on the other hand, the way the wife is acting to the husband is completely inappropriate too. Here's a fun fact. As a man, it's okay to cry. Men have the same type of emotions as women do. So it's very strange to me that this lady would then imply that he is a bad father and a bad family man because he cried over a soccer match. Obviously, there's some very sentimental reasons why this would be important to him. And it blows my mind that she would make this kind of conclusion about her husband. Like, that's just completely unfair. I absolutely understand the wife's perspective, though, about wanting to be present in the moment at the dinner and spending time with family, but there's no reason to try and guilt trip your husband, all because he's excited about something he's interested in. Like, we don't have the full story, so maybe this is like some really weird obsession that her husband has, and this was kind of the breaking point where he's sacrificing literally everything else in his life just to be a part of this soccer game, but we don't know that kind of information, so we can only speculate. But from what we have been told, I really do think the wife needs to apologize to her husband. And I don't think it's a problem to really bring your children to the stadium. At the end of the day, you and your wife really do need to agree on that before you try anything, so you probably won't get your way on that, but I think some honest communication in this situation will take you a really long way. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you like Am I the Jerk, make sure to subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.